From the campus at Patrick Henry High School on the north side of Minneapolis, we welcome you to another presentation of Women's Blue Chip Basketball. Today, the Minnesota Black Eyes look to get their first win of the season as they host the defending champion, St. Louis Surge. Greetings, everyone. I'm Mike Peden, and I'm joined by Alex Nagel and Tia Elbert. And I let these two loose yesterday, and you had a chance to see Minnesota in action, and a very tough loss. They were up by 16, and then came within one, but really struggled in that fourth quarter. What was your first impression?
Well, you know, Mike, after the game last night, I had a chance to talk with head coach Melissa Young, and as disappointed as she was quick to admit that the turnovers last night was really the ultimate factor in what led to the loss. But at the same time, I think she took a lot of positives from that game last night as well. Keep in mind, they've only had one real practice going into last night's game, so there's still going to be some kinks to work out. But I think she took a lot of positives from that game last night, and I think going forward anyway, they're going to be able to do a lot. It's just they're going to have to clean up some things.
And Tia, I would say one of those positives was Kachine Alexander, who has always displayed her grit, whether at Iowa or here on this team. Who else should we keep an eye on today for Minnesota?
Well, definitely Kachine Alexander. She had a great game yesterday as far as the hustle, as you said. But one player to look out for would be Jillian Bierke-Lech. I feel like once Minnesota got the ball down to her low, she was able to establish herself a little bit. They established an inside-out game, and she was just working down low as well.
That inside game was working well until that fourth quarter. Minnesota had trouble penetrating inside, and they're coming up against a team that split the season series with them a year ago. Minnesota won here, and St. Louis won in a runaway last year at their place. And the Surge have a couple players with Minnesota ties. Why don't you two explain who they are?
Go ahead, Tia.
Well, the person I'm familiar with is Cassie Rochel. I kind of grew up watching her play. She played at Lakeville North. She played with Rachel Banham and Epi Ojulu. And so I got to see her play a lot during high school years. But as far as Wisconsin, I know she was kind of plagued by injuries a little bit, so I didn't get to see her much. But I'm looking forward to see her play tonight.
Well, I would also have to go with Cassie Rochel, but also keep an eye on Leah Cotton, who used to play at the University of Minnesota. She's a very fast, very shifty player, and she can do a lot of things out there in the perimeter.
And a quick turnaround for Minnesota, having to play at 7 o'clock last night. Now you've got to come around to do this again. Tia, I imagine you've been through that situation a few times as a high school and collegiate player. How do you prepare mentally and physically for two games in the span of 24 hours?
Well, in all honesty, I think this is the best type of turnaround. You took a tough loss last night, and now you have a quick chance to redeem yourself the next day. And so I feel like Minnesota's going to come out ready to play, and I'd be excited.
And I think you have to have a short memory too, Mike. Again, there were a lot of mistakes, a lot of turnovers, and you've got to wash those away and come out fresh today. And I think that's going to be key for the Black Ice here this afternoon.
And don't forget, these are all women doing extraordinary things as they move on to the real world, so we'll do our best to highlight those accomplishments in the next couple of hours. We'll have the starting lineups in a moment, but first, we're going to take you to one of those St. Louis players I had a chance to speak with and get a chance for you to know some of these folks and to see what they're doing. You're watching Women's Blue Chip Basketball. And I'm joined by Leah Cotton, who has joined the St. Louis Surge for this season. So, Leah, what led you to make the trek over to Missouri?
We didn't have a team this year in Kansas, so I went to the closest place who I felt was doing the most with their program, and that was the Surge. I suppose it's kind of easy to say they're doing a lot when they're the defending champions from a year ago. I mean, yeah, it is. That definitely helps. But, I mean, they just have an incredible program. Khalia is doing wonders, you know, with them, and that staff is absolutely amazing to work with. So I think it was a great choice.
Now, of course, this isn't like professional at the WNBA where there's trades and free agent signings, but for someone like yourself, I guess, how challenging is it to make that transition from, you know, a team in your home state to going to another place for a few months?
I mean, I had a few family members in St. Louis, and then, like I said, we didn't have a team this year in Kansas, so that's what made me lead that transition over to Missouri. And like I said, I did a lot of research, looked them up, saw what they were doing, how prosperous their team was being, and where the ladies were going after they were playing ball, and I loved everything about it. So just went ahead and made their transition over there, and so far, so good.
And Speaking of, what do you make of your new surroundings, teammates, and again, a lot of folks who were on last year's championship team?
I mean, I love it. It's very competitive. Everybody, every day in practice, everyone has the same goal, same thing in mind. So it's like very like-minded. That's what I love about it. Everyone's fighting for another championship this year, and it's a great surrounding to be in.
Now, last year when we talked to you, you mentioned you were looking at coaching as a possible career path, I guess. So what have you been up to in the past year, and I guess how are you trekking along your journey?
Oh, back in Kansas, I was coaching 3rd and 4th and 6th grade teams and assisting with high school. Now that I've moved over to St. Louis, I'm a sports instructor for Girls Inc. So not necessarily coaching, but I still get to be involved with kids and help them stay active, and that's what I wanted to do.
So is that something you see down the road, just working with kids?
Oh, yes, most definitely. I went to school to be a counselor for children. So this way I can still do what it is I love to do and just do it through sports.
And speaking of, what do you make of your alma mater? They had a pretty resilient season. They lost their top player to an ACL injury, and they still made the tournament.
I mean, definitely. It shows how mentally strong they were as a team. And I think they definitely did wonders, went in there and made things happen this year.
Now, for you as a player, are you still looking to land a spot, or are you playing for fun? I guess what keeps you coming back here to this sport?
I'm still looking to go overseas and play ball. That's what I want to do, and I feel like I can definitely make my dream a reality playing here with the Surge. So that's my goal.
Well, you had a pretty good season a year ago with Kansas. I remember you had a pretty good performance in the game against Minnesota, so maybe an overseas team will be calling. But and then just in general, how does this league provide an avenue for folks who they still have a love for the game and still want to continue participating?
I mean, this league is very competitive. Even in the games that we're about to see today, you have a lot of players that we've played with in college, different teams in the Big Ten. So you have women who just want to get out there and get it, who not only play, just to get paid or whatever, but, you're just out here playing for fun and for the love of the game. And so that's what I love about it.
And what are you looking forward to with Minnesota here?
I mean, it was a great game last year. I don't expect anything less this year. So it should be a great competition.
Well, you kind of crashed the homecoming last year, so perhaps we'll get a repeat this year?
Perhaps.
Anyone you want to say hi to?
I mean, hello to everybody. All the support I know a few people that are coming here to watch the game today, and I appreciate the love and support that I have from many people here. So. Not
to mention your old teammates and foes from the Big Ten Conference.
Yeah, a lot of teammates, a lot of foes. Definitely playing with some that I, played against, girls at Wisconsin, girls at Illinois, and then same thing on the Minnesota team, girls from Iowa and other players that I played with as well. So it's definitely going to be fun. Well,
it should be a fun reunion. Hopefully Minnesota continues to treat you well like it did a year ago.
Hey, hopefully.
Leah Cotton from the St. Louis Surge. And I'm joined by a familiar face if you're a fan of Minnesota prep basketball. Of course, she went to Wisconsin and now wearing the lime green of St. Louis, Cassie Rochel. And Cassie, the last time I spoke with you, you had blonde hair and you were coming off a state championship. So maybe give us a capsule of what you've been up to since then.
Well, I've played for the past 4 years. Been at Wisconsin for 5. I redshirted a year. I just couldn't give up the game of basketball, so I decided to join the St. Louis Surge. I was down in Tampa at a combine when I met Khalia, the owner, and I got to be coached by Tony a little bit. He put me through some workouts at the combine, so that's why I ran into these guys and got the opportunity to play with the Surge. So.
And I guess for you, how does it feel to come in a few months, because it was a few months ago where your season ended by a tenth of a second. Now you're here, looking to continue your journey. So what has that transition been like?
It's crazy. I mean, basketball is basketball. So, I'm excited to be here, though. This is my first practice game with the Surge. They're kind of just throwing me in there. So I'm excited, and it's in my hometown. So I couldn't be more excited. My family's coming, and they're always supportive. So.
And speaking of course, you got to make a few trips over here with the Big Ten Conference and being a Wisconsin Badger. But what is it like for you to come back and hang out and kind of see all your familiar faces from your days at Lakeville North?
It's crazy. I was talking to one of the girls on the way over here. I haven't been home in a while, so things look a little different. There's a lot of construction going on, so some things are a little different, but still the same old Minnesota. So it's nice to be home, and to be able to play here is always nice. So. And
not to mention your old compadre. Of course, she's having to go through a year out herself, so I don't know if you two had any chats afterward, but you've been through that process already. If I recall, you had some back problems.
Yeah.
And so seeing one of your best buddies from high school having to do the same thing, how did you help her get through that process?
I mean, it's just all support. Redshirting is a long process, especially your senior year. That's the worst. But it happens to a lot of players nowadays. So it's just all about being supportive and whatever she wants to do, whether it's redshirt, whether it's leave and try and try out for the league. It's all about being there, there for support, listening to her when she wants to talk, and just being there.
And I should point out I'm talking about Rochel Banham in case you viewers aren't familiar with that. But on that note, too, I guess you had a chance to see her play with Minnesota and beat up on, well, you guys a few times at Wisconsin. So what do you make of her development, and how excited are you that she'll have another year to prove herself?
I'm so excited. We talked about her continuing her career at Minnesota, and she's so close to breaking so many records. I think that's one thing that kind of kept her there is she's worked so hard, and she deserves all the records that she's going to break. So, I mean, she's a great player. She's come such a long way since high school, but she's only had more room to grow. I can't wait to watch her in the future in the WNBA. And yeah.
Did you sense that kind of talent emanating when you two were teammates?
Oh, absolutely. She's always been such a standout player in high school, and then I knew she would only get better from there. And she's so coachable with their with their coaching change or whatever. I knew she would only get along with them. So.
And I saw you two would often join up at Lynx games.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just a fun thing of ours when we come back into town. Just spend we always go to Lifetime and play, but what better way to enjoy our time together than to go watch some basketball? So.
And then on that note, too, I guess what is it like when you're coming in here and you're playing against some old allies and some old foes that you faced in the Big Ten and just on the overall college circuit, and it's kind of like a reunion?
Yeah, it really is. I just ran into Ty Smith. I played with her in AAU, and Kachine Alexander, I played against her at Iowa. They said there's an Indiana player on this team, so it's exciting to see, where they've all gone and where they are now, and see how they've developed as players. So I'm excited.
I think you played against Taisha Smith, if I recall. You faced South a few years ago.
I did, yes. And same with the girl on our team, Leah Cotton. Obviously, I played against her when she was at Minnesota, and so I'm just excited to be here and play.
Now, it sounds like you want to continue playing, and maybe, I don't know if you're thinking overseas or elsewhere, but what other career options are you looking at now that you've graduated and ready to join the real world?
Well, I'm trying to push off the real world as long as possible, so I'm definitely hoping to go overseas first and foremost, but if that doesn't work out, God willing, I can get into sports marketing or sports broadcasting was my next option, so we'll see where we go from there.
Are you looking at taking my job?
Oh, yeah, so watch out.
And what attracts you to the marketing and broadcasting realm?
I just knew I wanted to stick with sports. As much as I love kids and as much as I love coaching and stuff, we've done it throughout our camps and years at universities. I really wanted to see a different aspect of the sports world. So I would love to get into sports marketing, or everyone tells me that I'd be great on camera, so I kind of listened to that as well. So I took some marketing and broadcasting classes, and we'll see.
Well, the next time you pay a visit, just let me know, and I can give you a few pointers if you want.
Absolutely.
I guess my last question, how has the darker hair color been for you?
Good. Not as many people notice me, and I'm okay with that. But it's hard to blend in when you're 6'4". But yeah.
That being said, I think you've made a pretty good path for yourself. So I think regardless of your hair color, it's great to see that you're continuing your journey and kind of bouncing back from that injury, because I remember reading a story on how that almost put a halt to your plans.
Absolutely. It's great to be back out on the court and just not take it for granted. So,
is there anybody you want to say hi to that will be watching this?
My family's coming, so I won't say hi to them. But just anybody in Minnesota that I know and I played with or played against, just say hi.
Well, maybe you'll get a few more blocks like you did back in those high school days or in college. But it's great to see you continuing to play the sport, and hopefully you enjoy your Minnesota visit.
Thank you so much.
Cassie, Rochel from the St. Louis Surge. Welcome to Patrick Henry High School, everyone. Let's take a look at the starting five for both teams. For the visiting St. Louis Surge, Number 3, Sam Price. She's a 5'8" guard from St. Cloud State University. Number 13, Rebecca Harris, a 5'8" guard from the University of Illinois. Number 21, Cassie Rochel, 6'4" center from Wisconsin, originally from Lakeville. Jaleesa Butler, number 30, from Georgetown. She's a 6'1" forward. And Gabriella Green, 6'1" post from Lindenwood. She's number 35. Minnesota will start the same 5 as last night, so Kachine Alexander, despite the knee injury, will be on the floor for the Black Ice. She's from Iowa. Tanisha Scott, number 11, from UMD. Along with number 15, Brianna Sally, played for a season at Minnesota. Sally is a forward. Number 21, Ashley Ellis-Milan. She is the center, also a Golden Gopher. And number 42, Jillian Bjorky-Lecce from Iowa State, then went to Concordia. She is a center.
Number 21, Ashley Ellis-Milan. Number 15, Brianna.
Definitely good to see Kachine Alexander out there again, Mike, after that knee injury. When I spoke with Melissa Young afterward last night, she said it was just a sprain, and she looks pretty healthy out there right now and ready to go.
I had a chance to speak with Kachine. She said it was a little stiff, but she's ready to play. And you noted this yesterday, and that's pretty much summed up Kachine's entire basketball career. The word grit. Kachine does not back down from a challenge easily.
Definitely, and I think it's a plus for Minnesota to have Kachine back on the court. Like I was saying last night, I think Kachine is definitely one of the main leaders of the Black Ice, and it's very important to have her on the court.
Now, one thing we'll keep an eye on is turnovers. As we noted, that's what cost Minnesota in the fourth quarter, and that's what how a 16-point lead turned into a 3-point loss. That's a tough way to start the season, but we mentioned in the open these teams split the season series, and the Surge, their only loss of the season came against this Minnesota Black Ice team a year ago, and their owner, Khalia Collier, has big plans. She would love to get St. Louis a WNBA franchise down the road, and doing a great job at building the culture. And interestingly, it was Melissa Young who got the St. Louis franchise started when she was with the Jaguars, moved to St. Louis, took some of her players with, and well, now they're reaping the benefits. So we're underway. St. Louis wearing the lime green, Minnesota wearing the white, and let's see what happens. That's Jaleesa Butler from Georgetown. I don't know if you had a chance to play against her, Tia, in the Big East, but...
No, I didn't, actually. She didn't play this year, so doesn't look very familiar.
And Cassie Rochel couldn't corral the O-board, so Minnesota will get it. Now, we play international rules, so it should be 10-minute quarters stoppage time. It might take a little while for the operators to get things active, but there's Sam Price with the steal. We had some issues with the clock yesterday.
And right away, we saw the turnover bugaboo strike the Black Ice, Mike.
Well, I guess that makes both teams have one turnover apiece. Sally pulls up for three, and that rims out. Had some trouble yesterday hitting that three-point shot.
I think it's important for Sally to keep shooting, though. Last night she hit 2 big three-pointers, and I think that'll be important in this game as well.
Well, you would know about that. Once scoring 55 points in a high school game, tied for third in the all-time list.
Yeah, my coach just told me keep shooting. That's the motto. Make or miss. If you're a shooter, you're a shooter.
Well, Alex and I have fond memories of that Tartan-Washburn game, and Jillian Bjorky gets Minnesota on the board.
It's important for the Black Ice to get Bjorky-Lecce involved down low early on, Mike. They seemed to get away from that last night.
Now, I would tell you how Minnesota did yesterday on the score sheet, but somebody forgot to put down the numbers. I tease. But Cassie Rochel hits the baseline J, dealt with some back problems at Wisconsin, came back and really had a great career at Lakeville North, and injuries kind of halted her ascension at Wisconsin, but she wants to play overseas, and Ashley Ellis-Milan gets the bank. And it's always fun for me to call these semi-pro games because you get to see so many old faces.
Yeah, that is fun. You get some matchups that you don't normally get to see.
Well, that's a matchup that Ashley Ellis-Milan wins in that round. She gets the block on Rochel. And Sally's going to weave through and come up empty. Bjerke is there for the O-board. And a strip. Rebecca Harris was there. Harris leans in and draws the foul on Tanisha Scott.
And early on, it looks like both teams are trying to push the tempo. So I don't know how long this is going to last, but we're definitely seeing a fast tempo game at this moment.
For Harris, this is her first game of the season. She did not play in St. Louis's season opening win over Nebraska.
You know, and I wonder, Tia, with Minnesota having their first game last night against the Missouri Archangels, how big is that to have one game under your belt like the Archangels did last night and as St. Louis had coming into this contest?
Well, I definitely think that it's very important. Sometimes you need that first game to get out the way just to get rid of all the nerves and all the jitters. And as you can see, Minnesota, they were able to play through some of those. And so now that they have played one game, they know what they kind of need to work on and what they need to do with this game.
Brianna Sally hits the corner three, and Minnesota with a 7-4 lead.
And that will certainly give her some confidence.
Definitely.
If she can drop a few more of those.
Well, she hit a couple last night against Missouri that got Minnesota within one, but really struggled with ball handling. Hopefully she'll be able to fix some of those mistakes today. She gets the rebound there. There's Tanisha Scott. When she's not leading the Minnesota team, she is leading the Minneapolis South girls basketball team. Bjerke, tough shot. Ellis-Milan can't get to the O-board in time.
Talk about getting the best of both worlds, being able to play and coach a Minneapolis South girls team. I think that's pretty good.
And she coaches her younger sister, Morgan Hill. Alex and I had a chance to cover her a couple of times, and Morgan still getting a feeling of things at the high school ranks, but showing a lot of talent. And of course, their most famous sister is playing in the WNBA. In fact, starting training camp today for the Washington Mystics. Here's Kachine Alexander. And that's a signature of hers, gritty baskets. Butler with a quick answer. 9-6 the score in favor of Minnesota. And Sally wasn't ready for the pass, and I noticed that yesterday. There was some great passing by Minnesota, and in particular Sally, and I think Bjerke got caught in this too. They were unprepared for those passes.
Yeah, it's all about being on the same page, I think. You know, I mean, it's one thing to have the ability to make those kind of passes, but the players all have to be on the same page and expect those things.
And that comes, like you said, they've probably only had one practice before their first game. And so as they get more practices in, more games in, I think they'll start to become a more cohesive unit and be ready for those passes.
We see the same kind of trends at high school, college, and the WNBA. Price, bullseye.
That was deep.
Price hit 5 threes in the season opening win over Nebraska. She scored 23 points in that contest. Ellis-Milan almost hit one. I remember she did hit one against Iowa a few years ago. Doesn't go out to the three-point line often, but uses it. And Butler is feeling it. She hits the long two, and St. Louis takes the lead, 11-9.
A little 5-0 run here by the Surge.
Ellis-Milan, tough shot, and the rebound is tipped to Harris. St. Louis, they're going to pull up for three, and Harris is short. And a dead ball rebound to Minnesota. Go ahead.
One thing I am noticing is that Minnesota is starting to get the ball down low, establishing early on what they did yesterday. Now it'll be interesting to see if they stick to that. It seems that's their bread and butter, that inside-out action that they were doing last night.
Brianna Pooney is in the game for St. Louis, number 15. She went to Eastern Michigan, where a couple of Minnesota standouts are at now. Janae Morton and Phyllis Webb, I believe. Kachine Alexander, long two, swish. And we're tied at 11. Harris weaves around Scott. Great drive, but short, and a foul. That's Annika Whiting in the game for Minnesota, one of 3 Concordia players that their former coach, Ashley Ellis-Milan, recruited to this team. Ashley, of course, a graduate assistant at Concordia, effectively replaced Kachine Alexander, who got promoted to Division I and completed her first season at North Dakota State. But last year, Alexander was part of the first Concordia team to reach the Elite 8 in the Division II tournament. And Kachine, a Gophers killer in her college days. Misses that one, though. And the rebound by Harris. Skip pass, and Price can't hit the 3. Rebound, Tempest Wilson, number 3. Wilson, attended college at South Dakota. And she hits the floater.
Nice little jumper in the lane there.
Tempest Wilson was very important in yesterday's game as well. She had some important minutes off the bench, and I thought she played really well.
My goodness.
And a deep triple for Rebecca Harris. And this has been a back and forth first quarter, 14-13 in favor of St. Louis.
I'd sure like to see the Surge's shooting percentage so far, because they're really hot from the outside right now, Mike.
Entry pass to Whiting for the layup. That was Vonisha Harris on the dish. Harris on the drive, blocked by Whiting, and is fouled.
I'm really liking Harris's play right now. She's trying to get to the basket, kicking it out every chance that she gets, and from what I've seen, she's a very athletic guard.
Kind of like someone I used to call. Tia, by the way, is one of, I think, maybe a dozen players that have over 3,000 career points. I'd say she has some street cred. Fight for the rebound is won by St. Louis by Puny. There's Cotton, number 11. That's the same number she wore for the Gophers. There's Price. Used up the dribble, finds Cotton. 10 on the shot clock. Cotton's not going to wait that long. And the rebound is won by number 1. And a timeout is called by Tony Condra, the head coach of St. Louis. That was Bianca Beck from Southeast Missouri State.
You know, Mike, I have to think that one thing that Black Eyes head coach Melissa Young talked about to her team prior to this game this afternoon is rebounding. That's one area that I think they arguably lost the battle yesterday, and they've got to shore up on that front here this afternoon, I think.
Definitely, and also turnovers. As I haven't seen many turnovers this game, much like we did last night, so that's a good sign for the Black Ice early on.
15-14, and some early trends in the scoring for Minnesota. Nobody has more than 4 points right now, but 6 players have scored. And Rebecca Harris with the early lead for St. Louis. She has 5. Here is Beck to Price. Cotton, the entry pass inside. There's a wall, and Beck can't put it in. We'll get that play in a moment. That was Devonna Smith, number 22, and a foul. I believe it's on Smith.
Annika Whiting hit the floor pretty hard on that one.
Definitely. She was streaking down the floor, and you love to see that in your post player, getting down the floor quickly.
That was Kachine Alexander last night. She took a lot of tackles, and I spoke with Melissa Young, and she said this was going both ways. She felt the game was called a little too loosely and that players were getting too physical with each other. And that's going to be a dead ball rebound to Minnesota. So players told me they were bruised from last night, and you saw it in person. The officials were letting a lot of contact go. Here's Wilson. That's too high for Vonisha Harris to corral.
And one of those small things that are going to have to be worked on in practice and fixed up.
That's one thing that my coach worked on with our guards this year is jump stopping, especially with passes like that, the jump passes we weren't allowed to do this year, and that's the reason why. Sometimes you just can't control it as well.
Yeah.
Beck has it. Price thought about the three, works her way open, but it goes off the rim. Leah Cotton with the O-board, and she draws the foul on Alexander. Leah Cotton, as a member of the Kansas Nuggets team last year, put up big numbers. I think she had over 20 points and would have stayed with the program, except Kansas doesn't have a team this year, so she moved over to St. Louis. She still would like to get an overseas job, but if that doesn't work out, she wants to work with kids in some capacity, either as a coach or as an instructor. 2 minutes to go in the first. Beck pulls up, airballs it, and a dead ball rebound to St. Louis. And Sam Price will go to the free throw line. Or actually, that is Brittany Carter. I've been calling her Price. But that is Brittany Carter, number 23.
Nice move by Carter along that left baseline to slither inside and draw the foul and get to the charity stripe here.
That's one thing that I've noticed about these St. Louis guards is they're very aggressive in attacking the basket. And all of them, I think we've seen almost every single guard on this team are really athletic and know how to get to the basket.
Brittany Carter, one of 2 Illinois Fighting Illini on this roster. And she makes the first one. So my apologies, Brittany, if for getting your name mixed up.
We may have done that once or twice last night, so don't feel so bad.
Well, I know Kachine Alexander pulled a fast one on you, changing her number. Whoa, look out.
Carter went down pretty hard on that one.
That ball almost clunked our camera operator. They talked about having to run for dear life a couple of times. It's a dangerous job down there. 1:43 left, we're tied at 15. Scott to inbound. Oh, couldn't get the inbound pass cleanly, but a foul is called in St. Louis.
I've noticed every time Bjorky Lech gets the ball down low that they're pestering her almost every single chance they get.
Yeah, they're really collapsing on her big time.
Well, Minnesota will get another try. This time they go out to Wilson. Skips it over to Scott. Whiting, baseline no. Sally leaps in for the O-board and draws the foul.
Nice job by Brianna Sally getting that rebound in traffic.
She's using that to her advantage, being a bigger guard, crashing the boards, and being able to jump as well.
You can tell she's hungry. She wants definitely a lot more after last night.
Couldn't blame her.
No.
Sally went to Minnesota for a season, then left the program. Got a training camp offer with the Seattle Storm. Wasn't able to get to the final roster, but still involved with the sport. And in the interviews I conducted yesterday, a lot of these players noted that they don't know how much longer they'll keep playing. Ashley Ellis-Milan called herself old, and she's only 3 months older than I am, so that concerns me a little bit. But now that these women, they have solid footings in their careers, they want to move forward, it can be tough to balance playing a sport you love and moving up ahead. And Ashley Ellis-Milan with the tip-in putback.
She certainly didn't look old on that one.
Had a great career at Minnesota. Didn't end the way she wanted, but that's all right. Sam Price. That is Sam Price, the real one. That three-pointer rattles out. And Scott with the rebound there. Sally. The bounce pass was intercepted by Cotton via kickball, so we'll have a dead ball inbound. Tanisha Scott, of course, her siblings have a deep lineage with Minneapolis South. We mentioned Taylor Hill, the former all-time career record holder in points scored. Her younger sister is there now. There's another one coming up. And Tanisha also has a daughter that she would love to get through the South program. She gets the entry pass into Lecce. How in the world did you put that in?
Well, I tell you what, pretty deft touch off the glass there, but she did it just right.
Her nickname is G-Money, and she cashed in big time, and Bjorky almost sends our camera guy flying. We have a foul on Minnesota with 56.5 left, and that will send Leah Cotton to the line. Cotton had 15 points in the victory over Nebraska.
I want to go back to that basket down there by Bjerke Lech. So she's been working her butt off down low, and I'm glad that the Black Guys have finally been able to get her the ball so we can kind of see what she can do for this game. And getting her established early on is very important for the Black Guys.
No doubt about it that Melissa Young wanted to get her more involved here this afternoon.
Cotton, a native of Kansas, and a lane violation was called, so do not count that free throw. Cotton ends up going empty from the line. We'll see if that comes into play later. 20-15, less than a minute to play. Shot clock has not been a factor yet. Ellis-Milan pulls up. Too strong. And the rebound to Beck. Beck skip, Price for three. Bullseye. That's her second tray. And Tempest Wilson with an inbound violation.
Those are those small things that obviously come back to haunt you.
That reminds me of the Minnesota Timberwolves Miami Heat game where Miami cost themselves a chance to win because they couldn't get the inbound process in. And it's one of those situations you do it, 99 times out of 100 you're going to get that right.
That was one of those times that they didn't.
Well, so a break for St. Louis here. Butler can't make the most of it. Minnesota comes up with it. Game clock and shot clock about identical. So Minnesota can hold for the final shot. Sally missed it. And that pass didn't set her up too well either.
I think the Black Ice could have been a little more patient. There's still a lot of time left on that shot clock.
I don't think they realized that the jump clock, the shot clock, and the regular clock were the same.
Jump clock. that would make the game interesting. A jump clock. You better work on that vertical, Tia. 7 seconds. Beck has it. Plenty of time for St. Louis. Price, they're going to set her up for three. Why not? That's short, though, and that will bring the first quarter to an end. Minnesota with a 20-18 lead. There was a couple of miscues late, but pretty gritty. Hold on.
I don't know what we got down there. I'm not sure.
The clock expired. The buzzer didn't sound, but I didn't see anything that would cause a stoppage. Okay, the officials do signal end of the quarter.
Yeah.
Well, that was an interesting end to the first quarter. And speaking of timing, Tia, this is perhaps could affect you as once you get through that transfer rule and you're able to play for Indiana. But this week, the Women's Basketball Committee recommended that they switch the timing to quarters instead of halves for the college game. So instead of 2 20-minute halves, we'd have, much like this, 4 10-minute quarters. What's your take on the proposed changes?
I think it would be a little bit of adjustment, but more so with the media timeouts. When you have halves, every 4 minutes, there's a media timeout. And so I don't know if you guys have ever played in a college basketball game, but those media timeouts are very much needed. And I don't know how they would do that with the 10-minute quarters, and so that'd be interesting to see.
Well, to add to that point, they would take a media timeout after the 5-minute mark in each quarter. So overall, there'd be 2 fewer stoppages in play as opposed to the 8 media timeouts you get now. But they're hoping to improve the flow of the game, and it would certainly speed it up with 2 fewer timeouts.
And, I mean, that's what people talk about with women's basketball, trying to get in the game speeded up. That would definitely just change it just a little bit. I mean, I've seen the women's game evolve a lot, so.
And Tanisha Scott draws the foul. And the men's side, they will go to a 30-second shot clock next year in an effort to speed up that game.
It'll certainly up the scoring.
Well, and Tia knows a lot about scoring. Tanisha Scott at the line has had the Minneapolis South job for 3 years, and every season the Tigers have improved their record, and since Morgan Hill came in, they're showing signs of the team that we remembered from when I was covering the team when Taylor Hill was there, and Morgan still has a lot of growth, but Tanisha really loves the opportunity of coaching her sibling.
Well, they're certainly slowly carving her own identity there, and it's a process, but it's coming along.
It's a bit surreal, though, and Jaleesa Butler, that was a one-armed friendly bounce. That's the best way to describe that one.
These rims I was mentioning, as we saw Jillian Bjerke-Lech get hammered down low, these rims seem awfully loose to me.
And we spoke about that last night.
I don't think these folks are going to complain about friendly rims. Here is Bjerke-Lech, went to Iowa State, then transferred to Concordia to complete her college career, and she's been hanging around the semi-pro circuit. Also the mother of 2 children. So taking time to be part of a family now. She makes both free throws. Minnesota 4 of 6. St. Louis 2 of 4. St. Louis with a 3-point deficit. Butler pump fakes, goes up from short range. That's no good. Sally with the rebound. And a late foul was called on Cotton, but we noted, and Sally had some trouble again when she seems to handle the ball. I don't know what it is. She just is having difficulty handling that process. Well, oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I guess I'm aloof here. St. Louis is in the penalty. Remember, we play international rules, so once you get to 7 for each half, you go to the bonus. So Minnesota's going to have a lot of time at the free throw line here. Sally on the front end of a 1-and-1.
That took a little use for me took some time to get used to that as well.
And
some of the different quirks on the rules.
Well, with the proposed rule changes in Tia's case, they would go to the pro system for fouls, so you'd get 4 fouls per quarter, as opposed to the half system. Leah Cotton hits the pull-up. Sally made both free throws, I should note. Lecce can't get the bounce. And a foul. That's on Minnesota. And that's their last to give.
That will be interesting if they do indeed adopt the quarter format. I hope they take some time to consider that. I think the adjustment may be bigger than most people think.
I can't remember the last time I played in the quarter format, so that'd definitely be a big change for me.
It's interesting to know. Well, Ellis-Milan gets a steal. Can she get Allie or Sally? Well, she can't. And Harris with the steal there. I'll hold on to that thought. Sally bounce pass to Butler. Great feed, but coming up short. She gets her own rebound, though, and Cotton will fire for 3. That's strong. Sally with the rebound.
Oh.
Almost traveled there.
And lost the ball as well. Another turnover.
Price read that pass perfectly. Weaves around Scott, and will shoot free throws. Sam Price from St. Cloud State, originally from Eau Claire, Wisconsin. I was going to say it's interesting because it's a big adjustment, but in terms of timing, it's the same length because we're just going to quarters instead of halves. The WNBA went to that format starting in 2006, but the biggest change on their end was going to a 24-second shot clock, and that really sped things up. And if I recall correctly, I believe the woman would stay at 30.
I honestly think the 24-second shot clock would be good for the game as well. When I played AAU, when we would go to like the really big tournaments, like the ESPN tournament down in Florida, Nike Nationals, we had a 24-second shot clock. And so the first maybe 5 or 6 plays, it was a big adjustment, but then you have to realize, okay, we got to get into our sets quickly, especially as a point guard. We got to get down the court, get into our sets, and run everything efficiently. And it worked out in the end.
The key word is efficiency.
Exactly. And it ended up being a lot of fast breaks as well.
Yeah.
And so our team, we were filled with guards, and so that suited our style perfectly.
Something happened in the first free throw, so they gave Price a do-over. And she makes both. We're tied at 25, and we've been hovering around this 3-point margin to a tie score. Neither team, well, Minnesota had that quick 5-point edge, but a very even game. Wilson, long 2, that's going to be strong. Rebound goes to Milan. She'll kick out to Alexander. Alexander, the only Iowa player to score over 1,000 points, 800 rebounds, and 300 assists in her career. And Annika Whiting, one of the rookies, will go to the line for 2.
One thing that I've noticed is that St. Louis is doing what Missouri did last night. They're in a 2-3 zone, and I guess what they were looking to do there was pack the paint, and that helped Missouri last night with Minnesota. But the difference between last night and today is that Minnesota, they're still doing the 3-out 2 win, but instead of having the 2 post low, they have 1 low and 1 high up, and so that's opening up a lot more opportunities for the white guys.
That high-low thing.
And so it's making St. Louis have to work a little bit more, whereas last night Missouri didn't have to do much to kind of back the paint.
Annika Whiting missed the front end. One of 3 Concordia players, as we noted, Amisha Kearney and Venetia, yes, Venetia Harris is the other one. I know what I'm talking about most of the time. Whiting splits, and I guess the score has been updated, so it's 26-24. I know we had some issues with that yesterday, but we'll make sure we get the correct one.
It got changed on us in that second half last night, too. That score did.
As Drew Carey would say, the points don't matter. Ellis-Milan with the block, and Harris is going to pick it up before the shot clock expires. So Minnesota can run a play. Whiting from the free throw line. Rattles it in.
On that last play, it looked like Ellis-Milan didn't want anyone in her house at that time.
Ellis-Milan, I think, has 2 or 3 blocks by my count. Spin move by Harris, but comes up empty. Rochel battling Alexander. There's a matchup that was fun to see.
Quite a mess down there at the baseline in front of the camera.
I think Ellis-Milan might have got a hand on that ball, too.
She's definitely playing with a lot more intensity today, I think.
They're going to call it a jump ball, and as you know in international play, jump balls, you play for it. I prefer that, actually. I'm not a big fan of the possession arrow.
That was another thing that took some time for me to get used to last night. I kept looking for the possession arrow, and there was no possession arrow to be found.
Traveling violation on Price. Rochel's effort to win the tip, she had a few inches on Alexander, we should note, was all for naught. Rochel at 6'4", Alexander 5'9".
And going back to that jump ball rule, I think that definitely changes the game, because when it's just one team gets the ball here and the other team gets the ball the next time, it changes like late game situations. But when you have a jump ball, it gives both teams a fair chance in order to get that ball.
And that's why I'd like to see it change, because it can sometimes Alexander, they are going to give her the charge. The baseline official ruled charge. The sideline said it was a block, and the baseline official won out. So that's an offensive foul on St. Louis, and we saw Alexander have no regard for her physical health in last night's game with Missouri. But again, that's why she was such a ferocious player at Iowa, and a very tough one to defend both ways. Of course, Iowa having a WNBA product. They got Samantha Logic over to the Atlanta Dream. Alexander faking the 3. And the entry pass to Whiting. She couldn't handle it.
Another one of those passes. I don't think she was quite ready for that.
She was wide open, though.
Yeah.
Great look by Kachine Alexander to see her.
Great recognition for sure.
Well, Alexander, this is her second season here, and Whiting, this is her second game. So experience and intuition, those elements will come eventually for Whiting. And a traveling violation. Rochel couldn't handle the pass. So that cancels each other out. 6:06 to play in the second quarter. And we believe, as it stands, Minnesota with a 28-24 lead. Wilson to Whiting. She's double. And she commits the overpass. And that allows Beck to draw the foul on Alexander, and she'll shoot 2. And massive substitutions.
Yeah, I was just going to say some wholesale substitution.
This is almost like the All-Star Series.
Yeah, really. I was just going to say that's what it seems like almost. From here about a month or so ago when we did that.
We covered that event this year at Carleton. Of course, Tia took part in last year's event down in Northfield, where you got to play with a lot of your old North Tartan buddies. Kanisha Bell,
definitely.
Chase Coley. That was a 1-and-1, and St. Louis wasn't aware of it. They sent everybody back, so Beck was left alone. Needless to say, if Minnesota didn't get that rebound, Young would have been in their face at halftime. Melissa Young, that is. Alexander draws the foul.
I really like how Kachine Alexander really takes that ball into the lane strong.
From up here, I thought there was no chance she would get a scoring play, but she was intelligent enough. And in practice, I heard Melissa Young talk about this. Go to the middle, force them to go with you, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to get the foul in your favor. I don't know if you have experience with that, Tia, but I do notice that quite a bit. If you can go baseline and force the defense to move, you'll often beat them.
Most times, and especially if you have a quick first step, that helps a lot out as well.
Kachine has that and a few other tools. And another traveling violation. I believe that's 3 in the last 4 possessions, if I'm not mistaken, on St. Louis.
That I believe is correct, Mike.
That's not a way to get your offense flowing. Alexander for 3. Off the mark, and the rebound by Devonna Smith. Butler steps back, and she goes over the back. Bounce pass to Price. Oh, great juke. You talk about that quick first step. Sam Price took the defense to school there.
And a nice touch off the glass as well.
29-26 in favor of Minnesota. Sally
Nice
Telechi.
pass.
That was nice, too.
And a great
no
reverse. Well, that'll help Sally's confidence. And Björki Lecce with the bucket. Butler for 3. No good. And Danielle Ellison with the rebound. Ellison, an assistant coach at Como Park. Alexander fakes the 3. Butler was ready for it, and it goes right to the coach, Tony Condra, but since he's not an eligible player, we'll have a dead ball inbound for Minnesota.
What was that old saying our late friend Tony Gear had?
Oh, yes. Never pass to your coaching staff.
Or to the opposing coaching staff either.
Taisha Smith making her first appearance in the game. She wears number 5. Finished her college career at Northern Iowa. A very quick guard. I don't remember her from those days at Minneapolis South. If you weren't careful, she would pickpocket the ball from you. She was fast. Sally, just enough space to hit or fire the 3, but she can't hit. Ellison boxes out, gets the board, and that was last touch by Minnesota. Björki Lecce was harassed. I think that was Rochel in the coverage.
Yeah, Ellison was really trying to thread the needle with that pass.
But there was no haystack to find. Minnesota with a 5-point lead, though, 31-26. And a foul on Minnesota, so Butler will go to the line. Jaleesa Butler had 16 points. And we have a timeout on St. Louis. Some confusion there with 4:06 left. Well, that gives us a chance to talk about what we'll have for you at halftime. We'll have an interview with Khalia Collier, the St. Louis Surge owner, who took the program to a championship last year and wants to do big things. And then we'll also have a chance to speak with some of the Minnesota players. There are several coaches among this roster: Ashley Ellis-Milan, Kachine Alexander, Danielle Ellison. So we're going to have a little coaches summit and get a chance to hear from those players and how coaching is going to help shape their perspective of the game. I don't know if that's something you've taken in part of, Tia, but But as you've been through, Tia, and kind of this played a big part in your decision to switch to Indiana. Coaching can play a huge role in your team's success and your own success.
Definitely. I mean, especially with basketball, sometimes coaches just have different systems. Every coach has their own system, and whether or not you fit into that system or can see yourself in that system long term is a very important, and that was important in my decision. And also, nothing gets better than the Big Ten, and so I'm very excited about it.
I can't wait to cover you in a couple of years. When Indiana pays their next visit, and of course Indiana has a former Minnesota member among their staff, Curtis Lloyd, the assistant coach there. Jaleesa Butler making both free throws, so I just hope you're ready, Tia, when you come to Williams, because chances are I'll be there.
Okay. I'll look to.
You better be on your best behavior. I've seen what you can do, so there's no hiding from me. Butler made both free throws, so it's a 3-point margin. Scott for 3. Swish.
Well, the Black Ice definitely more successful from the perimeter here this afternoon than what they were as a whole last night.
Right. And Tanisha Scott hit a couple of threes last night, if I'm not mistaken, and today that was her first one. So if she can hit a few more, I think that will put the Black Ice in great position.
Another traveling violation on St. Louis. So I think that's 4 in their last 6.
Lead back up now with 34-28. Let's see if the Black Ice can expand on this, Mike.
That is the largest lead of the game for either team, but Brianna Sally will add 2 more to that figure.
I was just going to say, Brianna Sally definitely looking much more confident out there this afternoon.
That was a great drive, and hitting the 16-footer is Bianca Beck for her first basket. 36-30. Smith won a state championship in 2009 with the Minneapolis South Tigers. Of course, she couldn't finish that game because of a knee injury, and I remember she wasn't too far from where I was when the injury happened, and when her knee went down, or her knee went out, gave out, she said a phrase that is not safe for work. But when you're in pain, you're not filtering yourself.
Not thinking about that.
But she thrives on the fact that she's 5'2", so a very diminutive player, and so folks think, well, what can she do? And she loved surprising folks who underestimated her ability. Well, and I know, Tia, one of your favorite players is Becky Hammond, and I recall last year we had a chat because she said you mentioned Hammond kind of represented the shorter athletes out there.
Definitely, especially in the women's game. I mean, you have the taller players, and they just kind of look at you and think you can't do much, and I think you surprise yourself sometimes, but mostly them.
I know a little something about that as a tennis player, too.
Right.
Tanisha Scott fouled Leah Cotton, so she will shoot 3 at the line. Of course, I imagine you're a big Spurs fan now, right?
Oh, yeah. It's nice seeing Becky Hammond on the sideline, especially for little girls that grow up watching her and now seeing her in men's aspect of things. And so I think that's amazing.
Leah Cotton kind of peaked midway through her college career. Didn't have a strong senior season statistically, but she was always a feisty player and became a fan favorite just because she was quick and was always grinding for things. And I remember she scored 26 in a game once. That was her career high, and that was a highlight of hers. And she makes all 3 free throws here, and that trims the margin in half. St. Louis 9 of 11 unofficially. Minnesota 8 of 12. So free throw shooting going down at a pretty good clip. Sally goes up for 3. Can't hit it, and the rebound by Sam Price. She's going to go all the way, and look who's there for the charge. Kachine Alexander.
Thought Price might have hurt herself on that one, but she appears to be okay. I think she was down in frustration more than anything else.
And Kachine Alexander with another charge.
Yeah.
And that's what Mike was talking about earlier, her grit. and not many players want to take charges.
No. Well, and you look at somebody like Kachine Alexander. She's so strong, particularly in the upper body. She can take those kind of impacts,
right,
as she did just there.
Minnesota calls timeout, 2:10 left in the half, and this has been a very even game. I mean, St. Louis, they've been struggling as of late. They've had a couple of free throw trips, but a lot of traveling violations. And Minnesota, still feeling themselves out, but neither team has really thrown the first proverbial punch.
Well, we saw the Black Ice briefly expand their lead to as much as 8 points, but that 8-point advantage got quickly cut down to a much more workable margin for the Surge here.
Sally left alone. That's short. Ellis-Milan is there, and she'll go to the line for 2.
We'll just call that one a pass.
The foul is on Leah Cotton, her former teammate at the University of Minnesota. Ellis-Milan, one of the several 1,000-point scorers and also a solid rebounder in her days with the Gophers. And you'll get to see more of this at halftime, but she's not quite sure what she wants to do because she's enjoyed coaching so much. She wanted to go start off as a teacher originally, and she is getting her master's in education at Concordia. She makes both free throws, but she has a bit of a career crisis. But I'd say that's a fairly good crisis to have, not knowing whether you want to go into teaching or coaching. Either way, she wants to make a difference in the lives of the next generation. Butler with a fadeaway, that's no good. And look at that, some alert defense there. And Ellis-Milan with one block, but she can't get the second. And Brianna Pooney with the first field goal. Whiting, stripped from behind by Pooney. And a dead ball rebound to Minnesota, but how about Pooney?
Well, Pooney, I think right now it's a big plus in there for the Surge right now. They needed to have some size down low.
But how quickly she got back to the other end of the floor after scoring. But she commits the foul that time, and so Annika Whiting will go to the line.
Figures as soon as I'd say something, I'd jinx her.
Whiting, a biology major at Concordia, wants to be a physician's assistant.
And that move down there by Whiting was great. She went over, made it seem like she was going to set a screen, but instead she just opened up and sealed her girl off to the outside. And that's how she was able to get to the foul line.
Whiting makes both. Minnesota 12 of 16. 75% from the charity stripe. Butler just inside the line, off the heel. Rebound Wilson. She'll go to Alexander. As we mentioned, the only Iowa player with 1,000 points, 800 rebounds, and 300 assists. And a 3-second violation. No, a foul was called. With those basket mics, I heard 3 seconds, and
was just going to say
St.
here,
Louis fooled me.
As we close in on the 1 minute mark, here a chance now for the Black Ice to expand perhaps their advantage going into the halftime break.
And they can do it from the free throw line here. Whiting with the first.
If the Black Ice can keep up with this sort of free throw shooting, I think that they can definitely close out this game if it comes to this down at the end of the game.
Well, so far they look much cleaner this afternoon than they did last night, and that's certainly a big plus.
They expand the lead to 6. Cotton weaves through and draws the foul. We mentioned she is a speedy guard.
She got a couple of moves as well. That was a nice in and out crossover that she just did there.
And Cotton is perfect from the free throw line. Five of 5. And St. Louis as a whole, 11 of 13. Alexander with less than a minute to play. Used up the dribble. Wilson almost lost it. Covers in time. Goes back to Alexander. She'll fire for 3. And that's long. Sally leans back for the offensive rebound and a fresh 24. Whiting, spin move, blocked by Butler. 30 seconds to go. 8-second difference, game clock to shot clock. Butler isn't going to wait that long, though, and she's blocked. Alexander with the outlet pass. Sally's going to pull up for three. That's long. Wilson. Well, that's a silly foul there on Sally in the backcourt, and then the double bonus. I'm not sure if Wilson thought somebody touched it, but she kind of hesitated, and we see that a lot in basketball. If you want to make a decision, whatever it is, stick to it, because if you hesitate even for a moment, it can cost you. So that will give Beck a chance to add 2 more points from the line. Bianca Beck from Southeast Missouri State, from St. Louis, Missouri. And she splits. But Cotton is there for the O-board. Butler for three. Got it. Minnesota does have time for a shot, though. 5 seconds to go. Alexander used up the dribble. No good, Ellis-Milan. Tough way to end the first half for Minnesota. St. Louis rallies to tie the score at 41. And how about this? St. Louis 12 of 15 from the free throw line. Minnesota 13 of 18. And that last minute, a big show of resiliency.
No question about it, Mike. You know, going into this last minute of play here, I really thought that the Black Eyes had an opportunity, a real opportunity, to expand on their advantage a little bit, maybe work the lead up to as much as 8, 9, 10 points in that area. But instead, now here we are looking at a 41-41 deadlock.
Your thoughts, Tia?
Well, I thought that Minnesota's been doing a good job on the boards, but right there, as you see, Cotton gets in and gets an offensive rebound, and that leads to the 3 by Butler to tie the game. And so, I mean, they've been doing a good job on that, but now they just have to lock down.
A 4-point sequence to end the first half for St. Louis. So we'll be taking a halftime intermission, and of course we'll try to get you to Khalia Collier of St. Louis, and also we'll head to the Coaches Summit with Ashley Ellis-Milan, Danielle Ellison, and Kachine Alexander. You're watching Women's Blue Chip Basketball. We're tied at 41 entering halftime. And I'm joined by the owner of the St. Louis Surge, Khalia Collier. And Khalia, you had a pretty good year last year, I would say, with a championship. So just tell me, what is your experience like as the owner of a semi-pro organization?
Well, we no longer go by semi-pro, a part of the Professional Development League. But we're ready, we're powered up for 2015, and we're looking pretty good.
Well, I'll keep that in mind as we move forward here. But what were the challenges coming in when you took ownership of this team, and how are you trying to get them to move forward and evolve?
You know, the biggest shift for us is continuous. It's a continuous evolution. Starting out when I took over in 2011, it's been continuous growth and building a sustainable professional women's organization in St. Louis.
And how did last year's championship symbolize the mission you had when you took ownership of this team?
You know, our mission, vision, and values are being carried through. The championship is truly just the bonus, but the momentum and the support that we've rallied in our region, it makes it really exciting.
And what kind of support have you received over these last few years?
You know, to watch our attendance continuously increase, to see the corporate support that we're continuing to garner, I can't be more excited.
And coming in, because you're a pretty young owner when you took over this team in 2011, how have you grown and evolved in your capacity since then?
Absolutely. Continuous work in progress. I'm huge on what do we do well, but what are our weaknesses? How do we continue to get better? And that's something that I focus on personally.
And you mentioned this being a professional development program with this team. So how do you think your team and the league itself provides an opportunity for players who maybe have some talent, but without this, maybe they don't get noticed?
You know, it's a bigger than basketball philosophy for us, but the combination of providing the players the opportunity to get the exposure to go overseas, giving them the opportunity to still pursue their passion while they're playing professional basketball, it's a combination of both. So we definitely provide that platform.
So where would you like to see this team move forward? I read you would like to get a WNBA franchise in St. Louis at some point, or?
You know, we've structured our vision a little bit, but as we're still building a sustainable franchise in the St. Louis area, of course we're looking to go back-to-back national champ, but it's such a bigger philosophy for us and a bigger picture.
And so what kind of philosophy do you want to emphasize as the owner of this team?
As role models, mentors first. What we do off the court is just as important as what we do on the court, and that's what I really, really stick by. Honestly, the bonus is us winning games.
Now, of course, you'll be starting these first few games on the road. You'll have your home opener in June. So for St. Louis fans, briefly, what can they expect if they attend a Surge game this season?
No, it's a true experience first. Basketball is secondary. We put on a community event, and I think that's what people really look forward to when they attend Surge games, is they know that they're going to experience an atmosphere of their life.
And then finally, is there anyone you want to say hi to that will be watching this game online or on TV?
Absolutely. We appreciate the support of all the Surge fans, all the people supporting women's basketball in general. The Black Ice are doing a job of getting the community involved here, and we want to continue to see that happen.
Well, hopefully you can continue that process yourself down in St. Louis. Thanks for speaking with us, Khalia, and perhaps we'll see you back in the championship.
Thank you very much.
Khalia Collier, the owner of the St. Louis Surge. Let's head to our interviews that I had with some coaches on the Minnesota Black Ice as we go to the Coaches Summit.
There's a lot of behind-the-scenes things that I did not know about. Simple things of scouting reports. I would just be like, oh, whatever, scouting report. But now that I actually do them and take hours and hours, when a kid's like, I tell you she's a shooter and you don't close out on her, it's like, oh. So now I'm like, sorry, coach, I apologize, my bad. I should have looked at the scout.
I just have to make sure that as far as academically, that they're fulfilling their academic needs. Make sure that they have what they need. I'm a post coach, so I handle the posts. So that's usually what I do.
I'm a advocate for being a student first and an athlete second. So just being able to drill academics into them and make sure they're on top of their schoolwork, because I feel like when basketball's done, you always have your schooling to fall back on if you don't go play elsewhere, you know, after college.
My college coach, Lisa Bluter at Iowa, she kind of suggested it to me, actually. Throughout the years of me playing there, I think it was after my freshman year. I had a good memory, good knowledge of the game, things like that. I picked up on a lot of stuff quickly. And she just asked me one day, you ever thought about being a coach? And I was like, I mean, kind of. Like, I didn't really think much about it. And then after that day, I started collecting scouting reports. I had probably 300 scouting reports by the time I ended my career there, and just started looking at a little bit more behind the scenes stuff. And then I just got really interested in it.
I feel like I'm an assistant. But I'm in school right now. I'm getting my master's in education, so I'm taking the opportunity that Paul Fessler has given me to work with the Concordia women's basketball team, and I love it. I mean, it's a different type of level than being at high school. I feel like it's more strategic.
It makes it easier that they're kind of close to my age, so it's not like they're way older than me, but yeah, it's kind of weird. Just coming in, like I catch them having little coach moments, and sometimes I still feel like a player, but it's nice.
They kind of look to me still because I was their coach, so they're kind of looking at me like, okay, like where do I go for this, or what do I do for that, which is normal and it's fine, and I appreciate it.
I'm really excited. I mean, obviously they're both great players. They both played at Division I schools, so I'm excited to kind of get to play with them and get more of the feel with them on the court as opposed to just on the bench.
By them coming on this team, and by especially the Concordia girls, like they've been around me a while now, so they know the expectation, the certain level of dedication that it takes just not only your life, but throughout everything that they do, it has to be done 100%, and just dedication, time management, and organizational skills are things that I have helped them do, so hopefully they carry that on into their real life.
I mean, at the end of the day, 18 through 22, which is what I coach, that's transition in their life, and we can make a big impact on the world.
It builds while I'm here with my team, because I can still talk to them and kind of coach them too while I'm on the floor. So being able to talk to them and get them in the right places helps build my leadership. So when I go back to coaching high school, I can translate that and still bring the same thing and be able to teach my girls how to be leaders when they're on the floor with their teammates too.
Our head coach, Martin Walseth, was the assistant coach at Penn State when I played at Iowa. So she pretty much coached against me all 4 years at Iowa. And then when she got the job, she automatically thought of me, called me up, and that was kind of the end of there. But it was awesome because that's kind of where I want to be. I played in Division I. I want to get back to Division I, and that's always been my end goal, so it's good.
Honestly, I was really sad to lose her as a coach just because she's brilliant in basketball, but like that was the right thing for her career-wise, and we all knew that she deserved to go up to D1, so I mean, we were all happy for her.
I can go out and run the plays tomorrow easily and remember them just because that's kind of the way my mind works. I pick up on things very quickly. So that helps me in a lot of things, especially defensively. That's why I've always been a good defensive player. It's just because I like to anticipate and I read their offense. So it's kind of my strengths.
She just knows the game, like all the little technical things so well, and she just kind of really drilled into us. You know, it's all the little things, and that's really what helped us get to the Elite Eight too, is just, you know, having that kind of drilled into our brain.
I love basketball and I love teaching basketball, but it's the everyday growth in your kids that you see, whether that is helping them with academics, whether that's helping them in certain situations in life, and you see them make a mistake after time, and then finally they make the right decision. It's things like that that, you know, make me smile.
Being able to take what I've learned from basketball throughout the years and the coaches that I have, and to be able to apply it to the young girls that I've coached is actually just, it's been amazing, because you can pour into them the stuff that was pouring into me.
I like to see players develop, and I like to see like what I've put in work for, and to have them go out there and do it and implement it. It makes me really happy. But as far as like learning X's and O's, I think that's a part that I'm really learning, especially from Fest, and like defenses and, you know, different strategies to score and ways to get kids open, especially the kids that we want to get open.
Being able to be a mentor to them, and not only on the court but also off the court. So it's actually been a fun experience being on the other side of things besides being a player.
I feel like at South I was just getting my feet wet a little bit, so I really didn't have a lot of say in a lot of things. I did a lot of behind the scenes work, but I feel at Concordia, you know, Fest will ask me, Ashley, what do you think? Or what do you think we should do in this situation? Or, you know, he values my opinion. So that's what I like about it.
I can take what we did this season and take that back to the girls. I can also invite them out to watch us play, so they get a feel of what it's like, you know, in college and after college. They get to see it for themselves. Just being able to take the tidbits that I can learn from my teammates and my coach back to Como Park and back to teaching those girls is what I like best.
For me, it's like I'm used to having someone else tell me what to do all the time. So it's kind of like the roles are switching for me, which is, I appreciate it, and they look up to me, so it's good.
Eventually I want to go into college, so either working, coaching in college, or doing something within the organization, whether it's in the athletic department or on the coaching staff, something like that. And then later on moving into the professional field, so working with like the Lynx or the Timberwolves would be great, or, you know, the Vikings, something in the sports field, just so that I stay in the sports field.
Get yourself out there. You are being looked at all over the place. AAU on the side of the court, GA positions, all that things. It's all about who you know in this business. And if you put a good light forward, people are going to recommend you to whoever, which is how I got my job. Me playing on the court and being the person I am and the player I was got me a Division I job.
I want to do it because I feel like it gives my kids an opportunity, especially the girls from Concordia. I can help them get to where they want to go.
I would like to be a Division I head coach at some point as far as my career goes. In that sense, professional career, preferably in the Big Ten, somewhere in the BCS range. That's what I would like to do, because I played there, obviously, again.
How weird would it be if you ended up having to go against Lisa Bluter in the Big Ten?
That would be really fun. That'd be really, really fun. We talked about that a long time ago. She thinks I'm going to be a head coach rather quickly, so it'll be fun. That'd be really cool.
Welcome back to Patrick Henry High School in Minneapolis as we resume the second half, or I should say resume play with the start of the second half between the Minnesota Black Ice and St. Louis Surge. St. Louis going on a surge to end the first half, and we're tied at 41 as a result. What adjustments should we expect from these two teams that will be most crucial in getting the victory?
I don't know so much about adjustments as such, Mike. I think the one thing that the Black Ice have to do, and they were doing a much better job of it in that first half, is working the ball down low to Jillian Bjerke-Lech. I mean, that really made a huge difference. I think they have to make that their primary focus here in the second half. As far as adjustments, I really don't see that much in the way of adjustments. Tia, what's your take on that?
No, I completely agree with you, Alex. I don't think either team has to adjust anything other than St. Louis. They need to limit their turnovers. And then Minnesota, I feel Minnesota has been playing a solid game and just locking down on the board, so Leah Cotton doesn't get in there, sneak in and get a few offensive rebounds.
Unofficially, Jaleesa Butler leading all players with 11 points. Sam Price has 10, and give 2 to Cassie Rochel. Minnesota has 3 players with 8 points each. Annika Whiting, Jillian Bierke-Lecce. And there's Ashley Ellis-Milan adding 2, so, well, now they have 4 players with 8. The other one was Brianna Sally. So, a pretty balanced approach so far for Minnesota. St. Louis a little more concentrated. Cassie Rochel couldn't get the reverse, thought about it for a moment, and ends up losing it to Tanisha Scott. Alexander out to Scott for 3. No bounce there, and the rebound to Puny. Butler fakes the 3 and skips it over to Harris.
And so it looks like we're getting back to that up-tempo game that we saw early on in the first half.
I think Puny took an extra step, and she did.
And she did. Shot clock was winding down, and that was a problem for St. Louis in the second quarter. They went through a series of possessions with a lot of traveling violations, and that has been an ongoing dilemma of theirs that I imagine they want to resolve if they want to win this. Bierke-Lecce with a mid-range floater.
I'm really impressed with Bierke-Lecce. I got to see her play last night, and I was impressed. And then once you told me that she's a mother as well, that right there, I admire her for that.
She lives up to her nickname, G-Money, doesn't she? She's cashing in. Here's Price. Can't get the screen to work. 7 to shoot. Butler has it. And she'll fire from 17. Swish.
Nice shot with that shot clock winding down, that's for sure.
And we're tied at 45. Alexander to Scott. Inside to her former coaching ally, Ellis-Milan, but she can't put it in. Ellis-Milan was an assistant at South before taking the Concordia job. Alexander, that looked like a foul. And Rochel will go to the line.
I believe that one's going to go in Kachine Alexander.
Cassie Rochel, the former record holder for career blocks in Minnesota high school history. She was later passed by Savannah Trapp, who was then passed by Chase Coley.
Remember her days well at Lakeville North. That great team. She was paired up with Rachel Banham that won the whole ball of wax not that long ago.
2010, they won a state championship with an undefeated mark, 32-0. They are the last team in 4A to win the state championship with a perfect record. And I had a chance to speak with her beforehand, and she mentioned she's been helping rate her old acquaintance Rachel Banham out as she navigated her injury. Of course, Rochel had to miss a year due to back problems. There's Scott. That's good for 2 if it falls. It does not. There's Alexander for the overboard.
Great job by Kachine Alexander, seemingly coming out of nowhere to snare that rebound and get to the charity stripe as well.
I may have to find a new word. Grit seems to be an understatement.
Everywhere I look on the court, I see Kachine Alexander. Now you see her, now you don't. She's everywhere. She's all over the place.
And that's why so many opponents, in particular Minnesota, had fits when they had to go up against Alexander. She wasn't recruited by Minnesota, so Lisa Bluter snagged her up, and Iowa has been a hotbed for Minnesota talent over the years. Chase Coley's there now. You have Bethany Doolittle, Thierra Taylor, Camille Wallin. Alexander makes both free throws, and it's 48-47. Make it 48-49 as Rochel goes baseline.
Rochel finding her touch there on the right side.
Ellis-Milan works around Puny, but she had a tough angle. And a dead ball rebound. We don't know where yet. The officials are going to discuss this. Naturally, both teams are indicating it's their ball.
We get a little decision here.
And it will be a dead ball offensive rebound to the Black Ice. Bierke-Lecce posts up on Rochel for the deuce.
Strong move by Jillian Bierke-Lecce on that one.
And down there, she's just too much to handle. Rochel's taller, but she's not as strong as Bjerke Legend. Just takes it right to her.
Price, no, and the rebound by Sally. Oh, wait, we're tied at 49, so there was a...
I think we have another little scoreboard change. Bjerke lets again.
And
she's
one.
excited.
Well, the score-keeping issues are more minuscule compared to yesterday. I know I think there were a couple of stoppages in the first quarter to figure out the clock. It was a very patient ordeal for everybody. That tested everyone's patience, I should say, but we got through it. And here's Bjerke Lech with a chance for a three-point play. She has 14 points. Make it 15. And Minnesota with a three-point lead over the defending champions. Butler closely guarded by Sally, and Sally reached in. Here comes Tempest Wilson. She'll take the place of Sally. Price, well, Minnesota, they're not going to leave her open from three-point range. She got 2 in the first half. And Minnesota reading the screens well. That's going to force Harris to go fade away, and she switches it.
That was great defense by the Black Ice there, but wasn't enough.
Sometimes you can play great defense, and they're still going to go in. So it's 52-51. Alexander makes it 55-51. And she's up to 10. Butler as a hole, too strong. Puny on the backside, no good. Alexander draws the foul.
Black Ice really dodged a bullet there, I felt, Mike. Looked like Bjerke Lech was a little late coming in to try and defend, but they couldn't cash in.
Substitutions coming in. I'll say this, of course, you and I, Alex, covered a game last year. Even if there's no AC, I prefer Patrick Henry as a host venue compared to North Central. A little more space to work with. Wilson, bullseye. Minnesota feeling it from three-point range, and St. Louis is going to call timeout. What was a tie,
this is the
one-point game, is now a 7-point deficit.
Well, and this is the burst that the Black Ice, I think, have been looking for.
This is what they needed at the end of the first half.
But I was going to say, I like this venue a little more as a home facility for the Black Ice. There's a little more space to work with, and it gets a little warm at times on a humid day like today, but it's a nice view, and this is a really nice gym. On your end, Tia, with 5:18 left here in the third, I wanted to get your sense. You had that first year at Marquette. It was a learning experience. You ultimately decided to move, but how was that first year, and how do you think, what have you learned about that transition going up to D1 and playing in one of the big conferences?
Well, the first thing that I learned is it's definitely a different ball game. It's the same game that I've been playing my whole life, but it's a lot faster, and you have to be a lot stronger. And so since Marquette, the situation that we were put in, we had freshman guards. We had 2 guards transfer, and so myself and Kenesha Bell, we had to be the guards. And so early on in the season, we had a lot of turnovers, and it reminded me of the game last night for the Black Ice. And so we had to work on that a little bit, but soon enough, we got the picture and limited our turnovers, and that was all she wrote for the rest of the year.
So did this team, did they give you nightmares last night?
Yes, little flashbacks, deja vu.
Jaleesa Butler posting up there, and it's a 58-53 score. Butler with 15. Ellis-Milan.
Wow.
How did she get clear of Rochel like that? And Lecce goes to the line after she gets hacked. Ellis-Milan set up that play. She caught Cassie Rochel falling asleep. She wasn't ready for that at all.
When I see Ellis-Milan do plays like that, I go back to your comment of when she said that she was old, but she keeps doing things like that, so I'm a little confused here.
Well, she's 28, and I'm soon to be 28. And so she's thinking at some point she'll be ready to move on, but not quite yet. Bjerke, also known as G-Money, up to 16 points. She'll have to stay there for a while. Minnesota 17 of 23. They've been getting a lot of trips to the line. Butler can't bank it. And Wilson with the rebound.
I think Kachine Alexander had something to do with that miss by Butler. She got all up in her grill, and Butler had to change her shot.
And a reach and foul on Butler.
Well, good job by Kachine Alexander there, Mike. Looked like she might lose the ball there momentarily, but she managed to regain possession.
When I've seen her play last year and this year, I do wonder how she would handle herself if she got a WNBA roster spot. But as we've noted before, she's an assistant coach at North Dakota State. Would love to coach in the Big Ten someday, or at least in one of the power conferences. And Ellis-Milan with the entry pass, and Lecce fouled before the shot, but to finish up on Alexander. And she's just thrilled that she is able to impart some wisdom that she gained when she was at Iowa. If you recall, she had to sit out spring semester in her freshman year because her academic standing wasn't up to speed, and she fixed that in a hurry and became one of Iowa's most legendary figures. A lot of contact down low. Rochel comes up with the board. And firing the three and banking it is Brittany Carter. Well, every time Minnesota makes a run, we get a yo-yo effect. St. Louis pulls them in. That foul on Cotton, and I believe St. Louis is in the penalty. They are. So Minnesota's going to shoot free throws for the final 13 minutes and 54 seconds of this contest, and they've been getting to the line with near impunity. This will be their 24th and 25th attempt.
And with the black ice in this situation now, don't be surprised if we see Kachine Alexander take more and more control of this game, Tia.
I definitely agree. She's been attacking the basket all game long, and now that they're in the bonus, I can't see her doing anything different.
Yeah.
Alexander had 34 career double-doubles at Iowa, and as a sophomore, one of two guards in the entire country to average a double-double in points and rebounds. Went to Benilde St. Margaret's in high school, won a state championship in 2006. So Tia, when are you going to work on your rebounding? You could get a double-double, couldn't you?
Sometimes it's kind of easy for us guards to sneak in there and grab a couple of rebounds, but the coaches don't really want us in there. They want us to get back on defense, and so that's my job, and that's what I'm supposed to do.
Foul is on Alexander. Cotton will go to the line.
Alexander tried to do a little too much there on defense.
Well, maybe, Tia, you could get a point assist double-double.
I think so.
I want to go back to for a moment, the game where you scored 55. I can't recall who the opponent was, but when you found out that you would put yourself among some of Minnesota's top players, I mean, what was your reaction when you saw a 5-5 next to your name?
To be honest, I really don't know. Like, I know during the game, don't really know my scoring total. And then my coach told me you scored 55 points. I'm like, how?
Hold on. Bianca Beck tried to inbound it, forgot that Minnesota had to do it because Leah Cotton made both free throws. So they just made the transition without any complications, but that was amusing. Alexander drives and can't get the finish. Rebound Harris.
And like we said, Alex, Kachine is getting down and getting to the basket.
St. Louis comes up short on their own drive. Wilson used up the dribble.
Way to pull that out there.
Yep, smart move.
And she had defenders trailing her. That's a good idea. Harris, fade away, short. And the rebound to Harris again. Carter, speeding through, goes back to Harris on the skip. Entry pass, but unable to post up was Devonna Smith, and Minnesota has it. 2:48 left in the third.
And Alexander showing her experience and her savvy, slowing things up a little bit.
Found a hole and got off balance, but again, her awareness, her IQ, you probably couldn't chart it because it would break most of them.
Yeah.
I don't know how she got that one off there.
Well, and I think just because of her smarts, she knows, hey, I'm off balance, but I'm going to try to get something and draw contact. And she'll get 2 more free throws. So to finish up the 55 points, I guess, when you had a chance to reflect on that, what did that mean for you to break 50?
To be honest, I mean, points are points. In the situation that I was in, I had to score a lot of points, and so, I don't know, I'm really humble about that. And like I said, when I found out that I scored 55 points, I was like, it's what I needed to do, so I got it done.
Alexander makes both free throws. Minnesota 21 of 27. St. Louis 16 of 19. So St. Louis with the higher accuracy, but Minnesota working their way to the line more frequently. And that can make a difference in the score. Beck fakes, fouled and one.
Well, she got Brianna Sally up in the air on that one and gave her just a little extra second to put something up. And she made the most of it.
Alex, how many points did you score in your basketball career?
Well, not a lot. Not a lot. My very short basketball career came to a close when I realized that tennis was going to be my best option.
I scored 0. Scott, poke from behind. Last touch by St. Louis. 2:17 to go in the third quarter. Minnesota with a 63-61 lead. The largest has been 8, but every time Minnesota has made a surge, St. Louis has stifled it. Lecce with the fadeaway.
And Bjerke Letch points to her family after that basket.
A lot of family members here. Cassie Rochel mentioned that her family was coming up to see her play. Carter, 16-footer, swish.
What a tough player Carter is.
Moves and counter moves. Lecce. No. Rebound, Rochel. Beck can't get by Lecce. She's going to go reverse.
Oh,
no. Cotton leaps in for the Elbert. Carter for 3. That's off the heel, and it goes to Wilson. Oh, Leah Cotton. You thought Kachine Alexander could leap from the abyss.
I was just going to say, what a rebound that was.
The shot clock did not reset, so we have a stoppage in play to get it fixed.
Bianca Beck seemingly came out of nowhere and had to jump about as high as the Empire State Building to grab that rebound.
Empire State Building, that's a pretty impressive leap. .122 left. Wilson goes up, and they're going to call a foul. I don't know what the foul situation is outside of team fouls here, so I don't know where players at. I know you get 6, I believe, in the international game.
I think it would have. That one was going against Brittany Carter. She was complaining the most out of it.
That usually is an indicator, isn't it? Either way, that gives Wilson a shot at 2 free throws.
And she does come out.
Wilson from South Dakota, played her high school ball at Elk River. They had a strong season this past year in the Northwest Suburban. Wilson makes both free throws, and another Minnesota recruit that went to South Dakota was Pamela January, the older sister of Jessica. Minnesota 23 of 29. Butler, 15-footer is strong. Rochel has it, falls down, and St. Louis gets the timeout call to bail out Rochel because she was in no position to escape.
Good job by the Surge, staying right in the thick of things here when they look like they could be in some trouble here early on in this third period, Tia.
And it's just basically by getting to the basket and staying with it. I mean, Bjerke is doing a great job down low, but they're taking it for what it is, and they're staying within the thick of things.
And Minnesota, at least in this game, I noticed they're working their way to the free throw line quite a bit. What do you think they've polished their game compared to yesterday? Because they haven't gone up by as much, but they've been hanging on to the lead for most of this game.
Well, I think that they limited their turnovers a lot. Last game, I'm quite sure they were in double-digit turnovers. And today, we haven't talked about it much, so that's a good sign for the Minnesota Black Guys.
Yeah. I think the disappointing thing for Minnesota right now, Mike, is the fact that they looked like they were in prime position to take control of this game. And the fact that the Surges slowly battled their way back and got to within distance has to be a little bit of a disappointment for Melissa Young at this juncture, I think.
Although I would say 8 points is not a big deficit either. I wouldn't say Minnesota's had the upper hand that much, but this has been a very close game and fun to watch. Ellison with the rebound there.
Oh,
that's a kickball. 34.2 left and 15 on the shot clock. Bjerke posts up. Rochel gets her that time, but she tips it right to Wilson, and she came up short, but a late foul, and 2 more free throws for Wilson.
Definitely a big plus here. Seeing the Black Ice crash the boards. It's no more rebounds and get to the charity stripe in the process.
Minnesota in the double bonus now, so any foul will get 2 free throws from here on out. Those rims are very friendly to Wilson, aren't they?
Just from comparing with other venues, the rims here just seem very loose for whatever reason.
Tia, imagine if you played at Henry, you could have had 60 points perhaps in a game.
Well, reasoning to why these rims are so loose, I would think that the Patrick Henry boys basketball team has a little bit to do with that.
Yeah, probably could be.
They did win 4 state championships from 2000 through 2003 under the helm of Larry McKenzie. Price for 3, bullseye.
No doubt about that one.
3-point margin, Minnesota can hold for the last shot. Whiting, hook, no. And no save. We heard from the official, her toe was on the line. Gotta love the basket mics.
Right.
We get the explanation up here. So a dead ball offensive rebound in Minnesota with 6.9 seconds on the clock. And they lead by 3 in a high-scoring third quarter. Alexander weaves her way through.
Wow. How she got that one up, I'll never know.
Wow.
And that ends the third quarter. Kachine Alexander with an emphatic finish as Minnesota takes a 5-point lead. A 30-point third quarter, 71-66.
She was basically falling down when she took that shot, it looked like.
She was falling down, turning around, upside down, everything on that one.
Well, and with the player with the toughness of Alexander, they're going to find a way. I mean, so she's not going to give up on a play, and you know why. I mean, you know the results when you keep fighting for it. It doesn't look pretty, but if you can put it in,
right.
You're going to keep grinding.
Yep.
So in this third quarter, I do want to let you know that the next home game for the Minnesota Black Ice will be June 13th. Tia will be in the midst of her summer studies at Indiana at that time because, she has some other priorities. Got to make sure she gets that diploma, right?
Of course.
Or degree. The same thing. June 13th against the Illinois Shooting Stars. And then we'll wrap things up July 11th for the home portion of the season. And Minnesota will be a host to the regional tournament this year. That will take place July 18th and 19th at Concordia University's Gingelhoff Center in St. Paul, and that should be a lot of fun.
That should be interesting to see. It's good that they have that opportunity to host that.
Right.
And the national championship is in New Orleans, so if Minnesota goes that far, they'll head down south. But next home game we'll be here for June 13th against Illinois, and then July 11th they'll host the Nebraska Strikers. I'm not sure if I'll be at that one yet because I'll be covering the Lynx Sky game the day before, so I'll need to see if I can get here in time. But I will be here for the regional tournament, so if you have a chance to check out some distinguished, talented athletes, that would be the time to do it. We'll start the fourth quarter here with Minnesota holding a 5-point lead. Whiting. Whiting has struggled from the paint today. She has 8 points, though. Price had the rebound there. Cotton working on Scott. Fouled, and 2 free throws coming.
I tell you, look at somebody like Leah Cotton, Mike. You can see why she's so valuable to the St. Louis Surge team. She's so quick and so shifty. Very unpredictable.
Remember, she was a leader of the Kansas Nuggets team a year ago. But since they folded, Leah still wanted to play, so she came to St. Louis. She makes both free throws. St. Louis 19 of 22. Cotton is up to 11 points.
It's good to see that both teams are shooting their free throws very well. In the midst of the NBA playoffs, you start to see some of these players like Dwight Howard and DeAndre Jordan that just can't seem to make their free throws, and it's so frustrating. And so watching this game and seeing these ladies make their free throws is a good sign.
I know the hack of Jordan strategy has led to calls for change on how that rule works.
My goodness.
That was Bianca Beck and Wilson. That was just a sloppy play on her part. Wilson, there was no lateral movement, at least from my vantage point, and I mean, she gave Beck that 3-point play chance. But Beck cannot convert the free throw, so Minnesota with a 1-point lead. Wilson has it. Bjerke kicks out. Pass was deflected. Ellis-Milan comes up with it, but she had a defender in her face and can't put it in. Cotton pulls up.
Wow.
Swish.
That was a nice little step back by Leah Cotton.
And just like that, the Surge have regained the lead.
They led briefly in the first quarter, and then for a brief moment in the third. And Beck with the steal, deflecting Scott's pass. Price for 3.
Whoa.
Oh, but Cotton is there. That's short. Jaleesa Butler was there for the finish.
I think the Black Ice need a timeout here, Mike.
They trail by 3, and there wasn't much effort to box out on that last possession on St. Louis's end.
Nice pass.
Oh, what a great shovel pass to Bjerke for the deuce. I didn't even see that one coming. Let's see if that gets Minnesota out of this funk. St. Louis had scored 8 in a row before that bucket. Cotton working on Alexander. And she draws the reach and foul. And both teams in the bonus here, so 1-1 coming up.
And Alexander pleading her case, but to no avail.
1-1 coming up for the native of Kansas City, Kansas. So I'm going to get your quick thoughts. Well, hold that thought here. I forgot it's a 1-1. And Cotton missed, so St. Louis missing a couple freebies after making several in a row. They made 7 in a row before then, and Alexander will work her way to the line. All right, T, I was going to get your take. Who's your pick, speaking of free throws in NBA, for the Eastern Conference Finals with the Cavs and the Hawks?
Who's my pick?
Who do you like in that matchup?
Well, I'm a little upset that the Cavs beat the Bulls in
well,
the
that's
last
right. You're a
series.
Chicago native.
Chicago native. And so with that, I mean, LeBron's a great player, obviously, but I'm not his biggest fan, so I'm not going to say that I am. But
the Bulls have never beaten a LeBron James team in the playoffs, so I can understand your sentiment.
I'll have to see how my Los Angeles Clippers fare in Game 7 against the Houston Rockets this afternoon.
I hope they make it. I was a little upset that they dropped Game 6 because they pretty much had it in the bag.
They blew a 19-point lead in that game.
Rochel open, and she draws a foul on Ellis-Milan. I think Ellis-Milan abandoned her, forgot she was there, and Rochel's going to get 2 free throws out of it. Kachine made 2 on her end, and Alexander is up to 18 points.
Mike, I will say, though, with my pick for the playoffs, at this point, I'm just enjoying the playoffs just because the Mavs and the Bulls are out of it, so I don't really have a
You're a Mavericks
strong
fan?
pick. Yes, I love the Mavs. Dirk Nowitzki's my favorite player, so.
I'm still waiting for my team to get back in there. One day they will.
I think it'll be really refreshing to see if somebody like Golden State can get in there. I mean, I can still remember when they won it all back in 1975 behind Rick Barry and Butch Beard. That was really fun to watch.
Rochel splits. Wow. Kachine Alexander with an off-balance hook shot.
It seems Alexander's wanting to take over this game, and I think that's the right thing to do at this point. Get the ball in her hands.
77-75, Alexander up to 20. She leads all players. Butler cannot get the bounce, and Sally with the rebound. Outlet pass, Ellis-Milan can't handle it. And she almost collided with our camera operator.
Well, you said last night, Tia, basketball is a game of runs, and I certainly agree with that. And we have the Surge back in front now by 2 points at 77-75. Let's see what they can do here with 6:32 remaining.
Minnesota calls timeout, and well, let's go over some of these performances. We've had a lot of great ones today. Alexander up to 20 points, Bierke was 16, and at Minnesota, they were balanced in the first half, and now you see 2 leaders emerge with that group.
Well, definitely Alexander. She's playing lights out by just getting to the basket. And Bierke Lech, she comes in whenever they need her to. Sometimes she goes away a little bit, but then she comes right back and scores and runs of 2 to 4 points. And I think that's helped the Black Guys.
Yeah.
St. Louis is led by Jaleesa Butler with 17, and Sam Price and Leah Cotton, and this is unofficial, of course, they have 13 points apiece.
One thing I will say to look out for is Sally has been a little quiet. She's been in and out of the game, and so we know that she's one of the Black Ice's 3-point shooters.
She had 1 to start things, and she has 8 points as of now. 2-point game. Harris to Butler. Out to Price. A few more skips. Shot clock winding down. Cotton with the rebound and the foul on Bierke.
And that's where the Black Guys have to lock down and make sure they grab those rebounds.
Exactly.
Bierke not happy with herself, and we noted this, and I had something about rebounding. You might know about this, Tia. You may not be the tallest player, but rebounding is just as much about positioning as it is about height.
Definitely.
Well, and particularly for those long rebounds as well.
And so, with my year at Marquette, we had a pretty big team, but there was teams that everyone had to box out. And so, although I was the smallest player on the court, sometimes I was able to get rebounds just because of positioning and pushing them out.
Well, if you need any tips on rebounding, Kachine could give you some pointers. She knew all about. Wait a minute. Are we at a baseball game now? Cotton with the steal. One-on-one coverage, pulls up. No bounce. Sally with the rebound. Minnesota got out of a jam there. Scott left alone for 3. Bullseye. Speaking of quiet, Tanisha Scott. She's up to 7 points now, but we haven't seen too much action out of her. A 3-point lead for the Black Ice.
And keep in mind, 2 possessions of those 7 points, she's had 2 threes.
Butler, too strong, and fouled from behind. That's on Alexander, and we're going to get a look at Brianna Puny. Puny from Eastern Michigan, as we noted earlier. And when you look at that St. Louis roster, top to bottom, a lot of Division I standouts.
Yeah. I was looking at the list earlier, and you see schools: Georgetown, University of Minnesota, University of Illinois, Bradley University, and those are all great D1 schools.
And Rochel, of course, from Wisconsin. Puny makes both. St. Louis 24 of 30. They're shooting 80% from the free throw line. It's a 1-point game. Minnesota 27 of 33. Scott weaves to the hole and gets the layup. Tanisha Scott waking up. Of course, her family, basketball runs heavily there. Harris with the pull-up J.
Boy, it's just been answer.
82-81. Under 5 to play in regulation. Scott, deep 3. No.
Whoa. It's getting a little chippy down low.
Here's Cotton. She's got speed, and she draws the foul on Alexander. Melissa Young not happy with that sequence of events.
I see where she's frustrated, though. There was a little bit of a tie-up down low.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you've been on both ends of calls that could have gone either way.
Definitely.
We'll put it that way.
You just have to take it with a grain of salt and just keep playing.
Well, and that's the thing, because, and of course fans love to rip on the officials because that's a popular thing to do, but as a player, you know that officials are going to have tendencies, and some are going to call it more loosely, some call it tight. I mean, how do you approach that? Because, of course, you don't know who the crew is going to be until you head out there, but that's something you have to prepare for.
I remember when I was younger, I used to get so angry with some of the calls that were being made. But as you get older, I reffed a little bit too, 5th grade basketball, and it is a hard job. So nowadays, I just kind of let things take them for what they are, talk to the refs, and that's it.
I found as an athlete that you have to find a way to channel that anger into something positive.
Definitely. And so in college, I mean, they're not going to listen to you if you just come out to them yelling or whatever. So I've actually been able to establish relationships with the refs on the court. Sometimes you just got to talk to them and like, hey, like, I didn't think that call should have went that way. And if you come at them that way, they're more likely to give you a few answers.
It appears Kachine Alexander is fouled out, and that's why there was a stoppage in play. She's not. Well, and again, they do keep track of that.
And that's a huge loss for the Black Ice.
Well, and that's something we're going to have to manage both ends, because remember, we're in the double bonus. And we've been in the bonus for a while. So I'm curious just how many players are going to be left standing after this. Entry pass to Lecce, and she gets the runner.
And that's why I said that Lecce comes in at the right moments. We haven't been saying her name much the last 2 or so minutes, and now she comes back with a great bucket.
She's up to 22. Here is Harris with the answer. 84-84. It's been a close game throughout. Neither team has led by more than 8. Sally draws a foul on Cotton, and like we said, you know you're in the double bonus, so drive, get that contact, because you know you're going to get 2.
Well, it's encouraging to see, despite some of the struggles that she's had last night and then today, it's encouraging to see that she's willing to go up there and take a shot, whether it's driving into the lane or getting a quality look from the perimeter. And as you said, shooters are the guy to keep shooting.
Exactly.
Sally makes both free throws. 29 of 35 is Minnesota's mark from the free throw line. They have made their last 12 free throws consecutively. And they have a 2-point lead. 8 to shoot. Carter,
Great block by
Sally.
Looks like we're going to have another discussion.
Nope. Well, there was a discussion amongst the players. As you can imagine, they were quite entrenched in their opinion on whose ball it was. But it was ruled Minnesota ball. So they get a stop, and 3:38 left, a chance to pad their lead. And with a game as close as this, even getting a 2-possession margin could be huge. Wilson's calling for it. Harris gets out to her in time and forces the steal. Carter's going to score an uncontested deuce here.
There's also this stage, Mike, these kinds of games where mistakes are magnified.
86 all. Sally goes up and draws the foul. And that was a tough shot, but like you said, your confidence is coming in there. She's being more assertive. And
well, with Kachine Alexander on the bench for the remainder of this one, somebody has to step up. And it's encouraging to see Sally having the willingness to do so.
And with that play, you kind of see the athletic ability
of
Sally being able to change her shot in midair to avoid getting it blocked and getting the foul.
And that's the mark of a pro. I get the finest example I have from the professional ranks, Simone Augustus. Offensive rebound to Wilson after Sally split. So Minnesota with a second chance opportunity.
And they have to handle the ball here.
Oh, this is when you want to take care of that rock.
Scott missing the 3-pointer. Rebound Carter, 1-point game. Cotton, long deuce. Oh, no friendly bounce there.
In and out.
How about this? Minnesota has now made 30 free throws.
Wow.
That doesn't happen often at any level. Wilson for 3. Bullseye.
That was a great kick out by Tanisha Scott. She baited the defense all the way in, waited to see what they were going to do, and kicked it out at the last minute.
Minnesota with a 2-possession lead, 90-86 with 2:15 to play. Price for the answer, no. And Lecce gets the rebound and draws the reach-in foul, so she'll shoot 2.
Lecce had to assert herself there on that rebound.
And she had great position on that rebound, too.
Alyssa Young calling Tanisha Scott over. Young, of course, has coached at just about every level. She currently is the head coach at Nicollet High School, a Class A member. She was a coach at Hamlin a few years ago.
Yes, I remember her well during her days at Hamlin.
I had to get a Mayak reference in with Alex covering that conference heavily. Oh, free throws are starting to pop out now for both teams. St. Louis having a little bit of trouble late. Minnesota is having some trouble finding the brim. But she gets the back end. The lead is now 5 with 2:05 to go. Minnesota looking for the first win. St. Louis, the defending champions of the Women's Blue Chip Basketball League. Rochel with the long baseline jumper.
And she had 2 of those in that first half, and Serge needed that one right there.
And that's a game that that's a part of her game I don't think we hear about too much, considering how tall she is. She probably was working down low, but she's got a charge.
Wow, that's...
It's on Ashley Ellis-Milan, and she's wondering how in the world did that happen?
As is Melissa Young.
So St. Louis can tie it with a 3, and I suppose it's only fitting.
I think Harris might have did a little bit more to get that called as well. A little bit of acting.
Well, entry pass to Butler for the layup. Butler go ahead.
I say, just like that, a 1-point game.
That's what I was about to say. 1:28 to go. Bjerke.
There she is.
With a fadeaway layup.
There she is.
3-point margin again. 93-90. High scoring second half. Butler from the corner. She can't tie it. Ellis-Milan with the rebound. Drew contact, got out of it. Finds Tanisha Scott. Got into a ball handler. And Minnesota, they're going to call timeout.
Well, she was getting double teamed, and Melissa Young saw it right away.
And she used up the dribble, so.
She's clamoring for a timeout there.
101
she
to go.
almost grabbed the referee.
Yeah. That's about right.
That's the best way to do it, though. Sometimes with these types of games, the refs can't hear, and you just got to get in their face.
Let's talking about that. I think it was the Cavs Bulls series. There was a timeout that the Cavs are going to call. I think it was Dan Blatt. The refs couldn't hear him, then the Cleveland had no timeouts left. So had the officials heard him, it would have been a technical, and the result of that series, maybe the Bulls come out on top. But you're not alone. Brian down there is a big Bulls fan. He's still recovering from that. I suppose they were, well, after 89 and the shot, Michael Jordan over Craig Elo.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I remember
due.
that. I remember all those great series between the Bulls and the Pistons back from the late 80s and early 90s.
The Jordan rules. But speaking of, let's get back to the action here with 1:01 left. Minnesota with the ball, 15 seconds left. They can't be too conservative here, but what do you look for? Obviously you want to score, but how do you set up a good play?
For Minnesota, here I think they should just get it into Bjerke Legend. She's down there working. They get it to her, and let's see what she can do.
And here she is.
Ball rebound to St. Louis. Right idea, but no. Are we going to have an overruling?
I think that's the right call. The change in play.
I thought Melissa Young was going to jump out of the gym on that call.
So they do reverse the call.
Wow.
It was off of St. Louis. And Minnesota gets a fresh 24. Shot clock really hasn't come into play. Well, the officials are having a conversation, so Minnesota's either going to get the ball with the fresh 24 or St. Louis will have a chance to tie it up.
It's going to be interesting to see how they sort this all out.
And they do rule Minnesota ball. That being said, the game's not over, though. St. Louis can still get a stop here. .56 on the clock. Sally, quick release. I don't know if that was the right idea.
And a 4-on-2.
Harris with the layup. She's up to 13. Lecce, one-on-one coverage. Can she post up? She can't post up on Butler, but she'll go to the line. And perhaps more importantly, they got to play off. And they could get a 2-for-1, presumably.
Well, no doubt that the Black Ice were going to go to G-Money on that one.
At this point, I don't think anyone can really guard her. She's just too big and too strong for almost every single post that the St. Louis Surge has.
So, Tia, did you ever have a nickname playing basketball in high school or college?
At one point, I was called Future. This was back in like 5th grade. And so if you see my Twitter handle,
Tia the Future, 20,
yes.
21, right?
So that's where I got that Twitter handle.
Well, the future is here, isn't it? Bjerke makes both, makes it a 3-point game. Minnesota 33 of 41 from the line. St. Louis cannot hope for the final shot. Well, I like that idea from Harris. Fight for the rebound. It's won by Minnesota. They can't.
Whoa.
And St. Louis had to foul there. I like the idea. They played the foul and chase game because you had time, but it did not work out, and Minnesota has a chance to score a win against the defending champions.
And I tell you what, if they can come out of this one with a big W, that'll be a huge shot of confidence in their arm after last night's disappointment.
Remember, this team did beat St. Louis a year ago. That game was held at Target Center. St. Louis got a runaway win at their facility later in the year. Wilson with 2 big free throws. That makes it a 2-possession game, and free throws played a pivotal role. That almost cost Missouri the win last night.
Right.
Wilson, pure. 35 of 43. And St. Louis calling timeout with 26.1 left.
So now if you're the St. Louis Surge here, Tia, you've got to set something up from 3-point land. You got to set some screens and get somebody open.
Definitely. They have the shot clock to look after, but I think they can get away with, right now they either need a 3 or a quick 2.
Yeah.
And then right away they have to foul and hope that Minnesota misses some free throws.
You pretty much have to ignore the shot clock at this point because
Right.
there's 26 seconds left. You need points and quickly. Minnesota in its second season, and a lot of these semi-pro, or what Khalia Collier likes to call professional development opportunities, any way you label it, it can be really tough for these organizations to stick around for years. A lot of folks have these ideas, and they have difficulty sustaining it. And I spoke with the owner, Diedrich Willis. He said one of his goals was to get to a second year. And you see the continuity and how that's playing a role for this Minnesota team. Oh, no. Wilson with the foul. So 2 free throws for Rebecca Harris, and no time goes off the clock.
Wow. That was costly. I didn't see the foul.
I think she grabbed her by the jersey, or there was some contact with the arm.
Yeah.
And that was just a little too aggressive by Tempest Wilson.
Yeah.
I mean, if the St. Louis is going opposite of their basket, that's what you want them to do, especially since Tam is a factor in this game at this point. She should have just waited at the half-court line for her to come to her.
At least eat up some time. So Sally's going out. Vonisha Harris is going in.
And another reason why that's so costly is because there was no time off the clock.
So the door of opportunity opens a bit wider now for the Surge.
And remember, 26.1 on the clock, so St. Louis is going to probably have to foul regardless. Rebecca Harris makes both, and a timeout is called. So a 1-possession game, and I imagine you've been in many of these, Tia, and Alex, you and I have called many of these close ones over the years. So we've got a little bit of strategy here, 26.1 left. If you're St. Louis, of course you want to get the steal. If not, you want to foul right away.
Definitely, and that's what I think St. Louis is going to do. They're going to go for the steal, but will eventually have to foul. And if they don't, which I can't see that happening since it's now only a 1-possession game, Black guys, they have to get it to Bjerke Lech.
And you know, for Minnesota, Mike, this is where the loss of Kachine Alexander to fouls looms so large here, because you want to have the ball in your, in the best ball handlers that you have. You want them controlling the action out there in a situation like this. And with 3 points, you've got to be able to take care of the rock.
At this point, though, if they can't get it to Bjerke, I could see Melissa putting in the hands team. Getting players who can hang on to the ball, good ball handlers, because you know if you can get the inbound pass, then St. Louis effectively has to foul you because there's not enough time between the game clock and shot clock.
Which it looks like both teams, though, right now is putting on their biggest players on the floor. So I think that's an interesting take for both teams, but we'll see how it plays out for both squads.
Scott will inbound the ball. She will inbound the ball eventually. We don't know when. It could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be next week. But she'll get the ball in. Maybe next month. All right, it'll be right now. She finds Sally. Oh, Sally almost lost it.
Yes, she did. There is a foul apparently.
And so the Black guys were, in fact, trying to get it to Bjerke Lech, but passes just have to be crisp at this point. There's no room for error.
It was ruled off St. Louis, so Minnesota will get another chance. 22.1. They go to Sally again. You're right, they're looking for Lecce. She gets the bounce pass in cleanly, and she draws the foul on Rochel.
Exactly what they needed to do.
Tia, your ability to see the future, I imagine, is what got you that nickname.
Well, I just think of it as that's what I would do in this moment. Jillian Bjerke Lech has been playing amazing the whole time. If she's not scoring the basket, she's getting to the foul line.
I'm a little bummed you have to go to Indiana for summer term. You'd be a great asset to have.
Thank you.
But you'll have a few years, and we'll make sure we get this tape over to a few buddies of mine in the WNBA. That'll we can get. So if a professional contract doesn't work out, we can get you in the booth, and then she can take my job.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me.
She'll replace me. Then I'll be stuck finding a new job. No, I'm kidding. G Money is clutch. She makes both. 5-point game again. That might be enough. Harris taking too long. She goes up, gets the basket, and a timeout by St. Louis with 6.6 left. But that play by Lecce and that second chance. Sally couldn't get it in cleanly the first time. She found a great lane the second time. And to me, that could be the play of the game.
I think so.
Well, I like the bounce pass in Jillian Bjerke-Lech on that one too. Safe. And she was able to control it.
I think the first time it was looking for a skip pass.
Yep, it was an over-the-top pass. And what Sally did the second time around reminds me of what we had to do a lot at Marquette. After we had a 26 game, we had 26 turnovers in one game, and our coach had us doing a lot of triple threats, pivot, and going around the player, and that's exactly what Sally did in order to get a clean pass to Bjerke-Lech.
But stranger things have happened. Is Minnesota going to call a timeout now? Yes, they will. Yep. Well, Tia, your weekend up in the broadcast booth, what do you make of this experience? And is this something you still want to do when you get another shot at it, I guess?
Oh, definitely. I mean, this was my first weekend ever doing it, and I thank you for the opportunity. I had a lot of fun at first. I was a little bit nervous, but now I'm kind of getting used to it and kind of see how things play out.
Be surprised what a couple, 2 or 3 times doing this does.
So I definitely see that difference.
So broadcasting is a definite career path for you.
Yes, I think so. I think I could have a lot of fun.
Well, if you don't become a successful shoe sales rep,
I'm sorry, what was that?
If you don't become a successful athletic shoe sales,
oh yeah, big fan of shoes.
Let's go.
All right.
Let's go.
Minnesota advances the ball off the timeout. 6.6 to go. Remember, the game's not over.
Wow.
And no foul call. Wilson stumbles out of bounds. St. Louis can tie it with a 3.
Melissa Young can't believe it.
I didn't see a lot of contact.
I didn't either.
So I agree with the no call. And St. Louis still alive. The surge. Do they have one more spark remaining?
Watch out for Sam Price here. She's been shooting the ball really well the whole game. So
here's Butler. They're going to go to Harris. She's got to get rid of it. Fires from deep and short. Minnesota hangs on. They beat the defending champions 99-96. And G Money will collect a big paycheck after this one.
Oh, definitely. She played great tonight.
I think this is a situation and a finish that the Minnesota Black Ice needed here this afternoon, Mike. After last night's disappointing loss to the Missouri Archangels, they needed to come back and make a statement. And even if it's getting a win in a close fought game as this was, this is exactly the boost of confidence that they needed.
Well, here's something for you. Both weekend games for the Black Guys finish in 3-point margins. Minnesota on the losing end last night. They're on the winning end this afternoon.
And I bet Minnesota can't do anything but scratch their head after last night's loss.
Yeah.
Because the reason why they lost last night was because of turnovers, and the reason why they won today was because they limited their turnovers.
Exactly.
There was one in the end, but it was inconsequential. So we'll try to get a word with Kachine Alexander and Jillian Bjerke-Lech. They were the two big factors in this one for Minnesota. The Black Guys get their first one of the season, 99-96, the final. Stick around.
All right, so we're here at Patrick Henry High School, and the Black Guys have just finished off an amazing game. They beat the St. Louis Surge by 99-96, And here we have Jillian Bjerke-Lech here, and she had a great game. And so I just kind of want to ask you a few questions. Early on, I was saying that you would be an important factor in winning this game tonight. And how do you think you played tonight?
I think we all played well. To be honest, it wasn't just a single person out there. It was the whole team. you know, we only had one practice together, and we clicked. I mean, I think we were able to communicate out there and take it to them, and we beat the defending national champions. So we're feeling pretty good.
Definitely. And then Kachine Alexander, she was also a key player in this win tonight, but she got fouled out with about 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So when that happened, what was kind of running through your guys' head at that moment, and what was Coach Melissa Young saying?
Well, I think, you know, everybody's got to step up. You know, from bench players to starters, everybody's got to step up. And we all know that. So when she got fouled out, we just said, we got to keep going, keep the momentum going, and we did.
And then last question, I saw you at the end, you were really hot, and so you were keeping the shot up there for a little bit, and so you seemed really excited about this game, and you looked really into it and very passionate, and so can you just kind of tell us what was going on through your head at that time?
Well, you know, I love the game, and I'm so honored to be able to play for the Black Ice. Living in Iowa, I have 3 kids at home, stay-at-home mom, and I just wanted to come play, so I traveled 4 hours to come here and play my butt off, and I think we all did tonight.
And I admire you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Mike told me that you were a mother. I was like, wow, and she can still get out there and play. And so that amazes me.
Thank
but
you so
there
much.
you have it, folks. The Black Ice win the game 99-96. This is Jillian Bierke-Lech, and we're done.
And I'm joined by Kachine Alexander, who had 20 points, fouled out in the fourth quarter. I know not the way you wanted to end it, but your team finished the job tonight. So I guess how would you describe this bounce back after losing by 3 last night?
I think it was good for us. We came back focused. We took care of our bodies last night, and we knew we didn't play well. I mean, we had 28 turnovers, shot like 20%. So at the end of the day, we knew they kind of escaped away with that one, and we knew we could play better this game.
I don't know how many turnovers you had, but you were 35 of 43 as a team from the free throw line. You guys did a great job at making St. Louis try to keep up with you, and for most of this game, you were one step ahead.
Yeah, definitely. As soon as that first quarter hit, our Coach Young was telling us to attack the basket, draw fouls, and because we're good free throw shooters, as you saw tonight.
And for you, I guess, how gratifying is it? You had the knee injury yesterday, and so you mentioned you were a little stiff coming in. Does that knee feel a little looser now?
Yeah, I had a lot of icy hot on my legs, so throughout the whole game, my legs were kind of tingling, but it kept me warm, it kept me hot, so that was good.
But tell me, coming back here for the second season, so what convinced you to return for the Black Ice, and what joy do you find in continuing to play?
The organization in general, I think Diedrich, our owner, does a great job. Our new head coach is doing an awesome job, and just in general representing Minnesota, playing for your home state. So.
And while your nickname is Cash, but it was G Money who collected the paycheck for you. Tell me about her performance and how crucial that was in the closing minutes.
Yeah, Cash Money and G Money. Hey, I'll feed her all day long. Me and her, we work well together, and she was beast mode today. We needed that.
And she's, of course, one of the new players on this team. So how have they bonded after this weekend, and what do you make of your new comrades?
Well, we had one practice on Friday with everybody, which is probably why we're a little sloppy on Saturday. But having a game under our belt, it's doing well. We're starting to gel and know each other's. I mean, we've played against each other pretty much our whole life. So just getting to feel each other on the court. And, I mean, as you saw tonight, we played hard. We fought, especially having back-to-back. Sturge didn't play last night. So I think we're on the right path.
Not to mention, of course, your old teammates and competitors and a few of your old Big Ten opponents on the St. Louis team.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. You know, shook hands and just kind of laughed it off. But it's all fun and games on the court. I mean, we're all competitive. But at the end of the day, we just love playing basketball. And, hey, we knocked off the national champs.
That's right. Well, 2 in a row at home. So what's next for you? I understand you're going to be heading down south to experience some warmer climates and beaches and sunny weather.
Yes, I'm going on vacation. I've been pretty much working nonstop since last summer, so it's going to be awesome having this, especially going to Miami after a great win. It's going to be good.
Well, considering your year at North Dakota State and everything you've gone through, you probably deserve some time off.
Oh, yeah.
You'll be coming back, though, after vacation, right, for this team?
Of course. I'll be there. Except for in July. I got to recruit, but yep.
All right. Well, Kachine's got to recruit, so I see where your priorities lie.
Oh, yeah. Money comes first.
Well, not to mention Division I, it's a pretty big process, so you got to start early and finish late, right?
Right. Thank you.
Well, anybody you want to say hi to?
Nope. My mom and family's already here, so I already said hi. Thanks for watching.
Well, thanks, Kachine Alexander. Congratulations on this win, and, we'll see you back here in June.
All right. Thank you.
Kachine Alexander from the Minnesota Black Ice. They get the win over St. Louis. Thanks for watching our coverage this weekend of women's blue chip basketball. For Tia Elbert and Alex Nagel, I'm Mike Peden. We'll see you next time.